Your turn it on, leave it on. Home of America's team is 105.3 The Fan. Go low, baby. KRLD FM and HD1, Dallas Fort Worth.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
From our fan studios secured by DFWsecurity.com, it's time for the Get Right on 105.3 The Fan.
It is indeed time for the Get Right. We're Reggie KG on 105.3 The Fan. Kevin Gray, Reginald Atatula.
What up, though?
My man Larry Flores holding it down for you here on your Turn It On, Leave It On station. Appreciate you joining us on Odyssey and the Odyssey app with you for the next 3 hours here on NFL Honors Night.
Whatever.
The NFL's MVP will be crowned, and will Canton's immortal doors be open to 2 more Cowboys, DeMarcus Ware and Darren Woodson, possibly getting the call tonight to the Hall of Fame. It is Super Bowl week as the Chiefs and the Eagles get ready to play for Vince Lombardi's trophy on Sunday evening. You can find me on Twitter at Kevin Gray Sports. You can find Reg on Twitter at Reg Atatula. You can find Larry on Twitter at Larry D. Flores. But we start our conversations tonight, gentlemen, with a blockbuster day that started last night as Kelly Clarkson walks out in a Cowboys dress. Look at that.
That's right. Put on. Go ahead and put on.
Burleson, Texas's own. Kelly Clarkson's in a CeeDee Lamb Cowboys.
How do you know it's CeeDee Lamb?
Because it says the number 88.
That could be a lot of people's jersey.
The current number 88.
There you go.
Is CeeDee Lamb. But 16 trades, gentlemen, in 13 hours, and this is why I get sick of Adrian Wojnarowski every time this time of year comes around.
Really? People typically are excited about it.
Not when I'm about to go to bed.
That's your fault.
Okay?
That's for your fault for thinking you was going to sleep, just like it was my fault for thinking I was going to get a workout in today.
Woj could have waited.
No, he couldn't have.
He could have waited.
What, for Shams to get it? You lying.
By the
I
way,
know you lying.
Final score, 13-12, I believe.
In favor
Woj
of...
over Shams.
Okay. In favor of, like, who broke who had the scoops?
Yeah,
on
Shams lost the trade deadline battle.
I saw somebody on Twitter say, and of course, I really shouldn't do the show like this. The show shouldn't devolve into I saw somebody on Twitter say, but I did see someone on Twitter say, don't worry about Shams. He got Kay Adams. He'll be fine.
Oh,
so, anyways.
So
we're ready to talk about this sports?
Touche. I think we're already talking about it.
All right.
But 16 trades in 13 hours started last night or in the wee hours of this morning because the Nets decided, well, it's time to break this whole thing up now.
No, Kevin Durant decided I am done. Because
more or less, yes.
That is actually the more reasonable way to talk about this because the Nets since they made the Kyrie trade, of course, sending him here to Dallas, the Nets have been in constant communication with Kevin Durant, trying to see what he would need to feel comfortable staying with the Nets. The reason why they have made all these trades afterwards, been able to do that is because they've been talking to all the GMs around the league, trying to get an idea on, okay, what would it take to get John Collins? What would it take to get this player? What would it take to get Jay Crowder? What would it take to get that player? Right? They are trying to see what iteration of the Nets that they could put together that KD would say, okay, fine, let's do it. And ultimately the answer was none of them. KD said, I am ready to be gone. And they decided, you know what? Then let's send him on his merry way. And for that, they got 4 first-round picks in addition to some really good players in Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson.
The full details of the trade were absolutely insane when you start thinking about the fact that Rudy Gobert still got more first-round picks.
Well, so let's talk about this a little bit wider, because if we just want to talk about one trade, then we're not going to get through enough on this trade deadline day. But obviously, this was one of the most impressive of the day because it shifts the power balance in the league. But with all of the trades, I think one of the things that was a takeaway is that first-round picks were at a premium to the point where it seems like now we're dealing in second-round picks. Right? The idea...
the amount of 5 second-round pick trades.
Right, because I have a hard time feeling out what the actual currency market is, because, again, the direct, having the trade market be in the currency of draft capital, then you have to ask what is the value of a first-round pick? What is the value of a second-round pick? And that thing is not always standard. It fluctuates. And after the Rudy Gobert deal... what was that, in the summer? Mm-hmm. It seemed like, oh man, you need a lot of first round picks to get a superstar type player or a star player. And maybe we've gotten to the place where those first round picks are just so precious, or maybe now they're becoming more precious again, that people do not want to trade the first, because we just saw a ton of people get traded for 1, 2, 4, 5 second round
picks, Jay Crowder.
So yeah, but again, the major thing about the KD deal is that now you have a Phoenix Suns team that has one of the things that's really interesting is that they are a mid-range team. Like, they can shoot the three, they can, I guess, get to the paint. They score in the mid-range. Devin Booker is a mid-range scorer. Kevin Durant is probably one of, if not the greatest mid-range scorers that we've seen. Chris Paul is a big mid-range scorer, although he has kind of reeled back on the scoring recently. But he also benefits from this because now you have two go-to. Like, he has actually had an issue this season. He's passed a lot more than ever before in his career and not looked to score, and the Suns were reeling from that. Now you get Kevin Durant, who will score, and Chris Paul can further reel back into just being a facilitator. But yeah, now you have the Suns in the West. You have the Warriors that retooled a little bit, got themselves better. The Clippers got themselves better with a few pieces. The Lakers even got themselves better, even though we're not talking about them as a power. Of course, your Dallas Mavs gave themselves an opportunity to step forward. So the West has really consolidated a lot of power, and it's tough. And we'll talk more about how it stacks up later in the show.
The specifics of that Kevin Durant trade, just to make sure you all have the particulars on that. Kevin Durant was traded from the Brooklyn Nets to the Phoenix Suns for a package that includes Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder, who has since been moved on, and 4 unprotected first-round picks in a deal that was announced in the wee hours of this morning. And, of course, that deal is now completed. Jay Crowder has since been moved since that trade was actually commenced, because now he is a member of the Milwaukee Bucks for 5 second-round picks. So Jay Crowder finding himself a new home in Milwaukee, which I think is it's a perfect fit for him and what his skill set is and what Milwaukee needs from him.
He'll be helpful. So you were impressed by that one, by that move for Milwaukee Bucks, because as a team, they have consistently just been active at the trade deadline, trying to make themselves better and help Giannis Antetokounmpo any time that they needed to. He'll need to get ramped up. Right, he has not played for 2/3 of the season. Since the beginning of the season, he decided he did not want to play with the Suns anymore, and he hasn't. So now he has to get himself ramped up. However, he does provide exactly what they need, which is a perimeter defender, a guy that has a little bit of size that can kind of switch a little bit, and he usually brings a type of intensity and activity that they could use. But yeah, that's going to be helpful for them in the East. That is now basically feels like a 3-team race in the East between the Milwaukee Bucks, the Boston Celtics, and the Philadelphia 76ers.
Another big winner today was our timelines, because the hilarity of what took place today between John Wall being traded back to the Rockets, Patrick Beverley.
He will have the opportunity to be bought out by the same team twice.
Getting dunked on by Shams Charania after he had some spicy things to say about Shams and his, getting, beat up by Adrian Wojnarowski.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Shams said, well, I got something for you. You're going to Orlando, where it looks like he will possibly be bought out as well.
Yep.
But then Eric Gordon finds his way back to the Los Angeles Clippers as part of that whole Rockets trade as well. So 16 trades in 13 hours. The biggest one, obviously, Kevin Durant to the Phoenix Suns. Jakob Poeltl going to the Toronto Raptors. Speaking of going home again, he goes from San Antonio.
If you didn't learn anything today, you can always go back home.
So there's that. And then also, there was one that I actually really liked. Oh, Bones Highland. Bones Highland.
Really? You liked that deal? Bones Highland going to the Clippers.
For the Clippers, I liked it. For them. Denver, not so much.
Well, Bones Highland was starting to lose time, and now we're talking about like role players. He was starting to lose time in the rotation in Denver because of how deep they are.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the Clippers just, what they have right now is they have a ton, and I do mean a ton of wings on that team. What they desperately needed was a big to help, especially defensively, and a point guard. They got that big in Mason Plumlee, and that's actually probably my most impressed move for them in this whole trade deadline, outside of obviously the big one, the obvious one. But the point guard they didn't really get. Now they got Eric Gordon, who can be a playmaker, but he is more of a 2 guard, like a combo guard type thing. Bones Highland, now joins them and is basically Reggie Jackson 2.0, except, they didn't really need that too much. He can get busy scoring when he gets hot, but, he's long, lanky. He's not necessarily like a defensive powerhouse by any means. It's just, I don't know that he adds a ton, but I guess, hey, having another opportunity at a guard that you can rotate in is cool. But for the playoffs, I don't know how much that is necessary. I guess maybe having Steve Ballmer money just makes it so that you could have some of those luxuries.
Also, other deals that commenced today, Thomas Bryant going from the Lakers to the Denver Nuggets.
Because he had the audacity.
The audacity to think he needed a bigger role, and Anthony Davis came back, to which the Lakers said, well, you can go.
You know what's interesting about the Lakers and the things that they did in this trade deadline? I almost called it offseason. It wasn't that. You can look at their team, and they have many a player that is 23, 24.
They got younger.
21. They got wildly young.
They got younger.
We were making fun of the Lakers as recently as 2 seasons ago about being geriatric.
Yes.
And now you look at that team, and of course you've got, the elder statesmen, rather. You've got LeBron James, you got Anthony Davis, and then who else do you have on that team that is like relatively old? Everybody else, like they have really found a way to add some youth with Rui Hachimura, Jared Vanderbilt,
Malik Beasley still there now.
Like they've just added a lot of youth to this team, and they managed to do it somewhat on the fly. Like I think I have to, oddly enough, give Rob Pelinka some credit. Now, why didn't you do this earlier? There's a question that remains to be asked. However, he managed to clean up his own mess, and now they're in a place where I think if the Lakers can get themselves together, pull themselves up to maybe like the top of the play-in, I don't think that they can get free of the play-in. But then there's one game, they have to win one game, and now they're in the tournament. They are going to be a scary matchup for whoever they match up with if they get to the playoffs.
The team that didn't do anything today,
the Toronto Raptors. Well, they did a little bit of something, but not what you wanted. They didn't let go of OG Anunoby.
No, I thought they were a big loser in the trade market. But for some
Chicago
reason,
Bulls?
Well, yeah. So Sean Sharani reports that both Chicago and Toronto felt like after Durant got moved to the Suns, that the Eastern Conference opened wide up. To which I say, did you forget about that dude in Milwaukee? And that dude in Philadelphia.
Yep.
And the two in Boston.
That's nice of you.
You're like, shout out to Jaylen Brown. But at the same time, like, did they forget about those teams? Because I don't know how much more wide open it got.
Well, I don't know that it's like entirely wide open, but if you talk about there being 2 or 3 really good teams compared to 4, that feels a little bit different. I know that functionally it may not seem all that different, but now you are contending for 3 spots outside of the play-in. And now you might be able to get in the place when it's 3 of them. You might only have to face one of those teams to try and get to the mountain of the East, which does make it a little bit more tenable for you. That being said, I still don't necessarily think I agree entirely with their thought process, but I do see how you can make that argument for one of those teams.
And another team who did not have any activity today, which we thought we might have seen, the very own Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, to the point where Christian Wood hit y'all with a little nana boo boo. Like y'all try to trade me. But and I guess we will talk about that here shortly because now you're in the end game, to borrow from popular media or popular culture, right?
I see what you're doing.
You are in this place where now it is make sure that you sign him to an extension or be in the Jalen Brunson seat once again. And that is an interesting proposition, especially because the fallback plan for Kyrie Irving seems to be getting cap space, right? Well, that cap space is negated if you then give some level of that cap space to Christian Wood's next deal. So now you kind of tie up or in theory, maybe I'm wrong, like, because again, it's always a possibility, but you tie up Christian Wood's availability of extension, not only with whether or not you can come to a deal, but also whether or not you can keep Kyrie Irving. And then now you're adding contingencies on contingencies, and you're making it so that you have to go through multiple loopholes just to get to the place. And I don't necessarily feel great about that.
Before we go to break, we're going to be talking with Nick Angstadt coming up next here on the Get Right. A couple of awards to get to. Congratulations to Justin Jefferson. He is the AP's Offensive Player of the Year.
That's right.
And
that man carried the Minnesota Vikings.
And everything. And Nick Bosa is the NFL's Defensive Player of the Year. So some early awards already being handed out at NFL Honors. Justin Jefferson.
That man.
Offensive Player of the Year.
Well, not that man.
Nick Bosa, Defensive Player of the Year.
That one.
in the NFL. Coming up next on the Get Right with Reggie KG on 105 through the Fan, Nick Angstadt, Locked On Mavs, talks to us all things about Mavericks. Next on 105 through the Fan.
Listen live at work or while you surf 24/7 for free on the Odyssey app. This is 105.3 The Fan.
This segment of The Fan is brought to you by Frankel and Frankel. There is a reason you need a special license to drive a big truck. So companies that hire drivers and put them in a big truck should be held accountable for what happens when one hurts you. Frankly, you need Frankel and Frankel. The consultation is always free. Visit truckrag.com.
Welcome back to the Get Right on 105.3 The Fan.
It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work?
I don't think it works like that.
Oh, damn. I tried. It is the Get Right, though. We're Reggie KG on your home of the Cowboys and Texas Rangers. My man Larry Flores holding it down for you here on your Turn It On, Leave It On station. Let's go to the Diamond Factory hotline and talk some Mavericks basketball. He is the host on Locked On Mavs and the NBA channel and YouTube manager for the Locked On Network. You can find him on Twitter at Nick Van Exit. He is Nick Angstadt. And Nick, did you like my Zach Lowe?
Don't tell him. I was going to see if I could
knows who it is. He listens to the damn podcast.
Yeah, but I don't think you do a good impression. That's why.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Who did you think I was doing an impression of?
Was it me, the start of my podcast?
Nope.
No.
He thought he was doing Zach Lowe. He thought that was the Low Post intro.
On today's show.
Welcome to.
It sounds like Zach Lowe is about to have a stroke every time he, starts off his podcast. Does it not? Welcome to the Low Post Podcast
On a Thursday. Trade deadline day in the NBA. And we're joined by none other than our friend, Nick Angstadt. How are you doing, friend?
You guys know how that goes, though, right? Like some producer at ESPN goes to him and is like, hey, listen, can you put some more energy in this?
He's like, I got your energy.
Like, I know we're making you do this podcast, but can you at least throw some energy behind it?
All right, before we get to the Mavericks, what were you doing when Woj decided to wake the world up with the Kevin Durant trade early this morning?
I had just finished recording Locked On Mavs. I was still on the Zoom call with Isaac, and we freaked out together, and then I immediately recorded Locked On NBA. And I freaked out. It's insane to see a player of that magnitude, like honestly, an MVP candidate, to be traded in the middle of the season. It just doesn't really happen.
So, Nick, let's talk Mavs. Obviously, at the trade deadline, nothing happens. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being entirely nonplussed, 10 being entirely shocked, what number would you put on your reaction to Tim Hardaway Jr. and Christian Wood both remaining Dallas Mavs through the trade deadline?
Well, first, they didn't do nothing. They went and got Kyrie Irving. Like, that is something. That is part of the trade deadline whole thing.
Sure,
like, on the actual
fair.
12 hours of the trade deadline, they didn't do anything. But I'm probably about a 7 shot. Like, give me a 6.5. Am I allowed to do half? I'm making up my own rules.
That's fine.
I'm going to do a 6.5 because I thought they definitely shopped those guys, right? Like, we heard enough smoke. We heard enough rumors. We've heard from enough people. We know some people that have said that the Mavericks are shopping those guys and that they were honestly surprised themselves that they didn't get any deals for those guys. But if you look at the players that got moved, like how many players around the league that got moved today, not obviously the Kevin Durants and things like that, even Jakob Poeltl yesterday, but like how many players that actually got moved are better than those two guys? That's kind of the question. So like if there wasn't a move to get better, then why pay extra to get off of a Tim Hardaway contract just to get off of the contract, get a worse player? They need bodies. Like they need a couple bodies in their rotation. I'm looking at the playoff rotation going, they got like 4 or 5 guys that need, at least one of them needs to step up and be good over the next couple of months for the playoff run here, or else this Mavericks team is going to be a guy short.
Nick, where do you now land when it comes to Christian Wood? He was not moved at the deadline. Where do you now land with him going forward for the rest of the year? Is it time to seriously consider getting an extension done, or do you play things out and take your chances with him in free agency if that's something they want to do?
Where I stand with him and where the Mavs stand with him, I think is a little of a different place. I think that the Mavericks should embrace him. They should try and help develop him. They should try and get him new representation. They should try and get him a different spot with where his career is right now. But I think that they needed the talent. Like nobody else that moved today is more talented than Christian Wood, right? He's definitely one of the most talented. Probably one of the most talented players in the NBA if you're like looking at top 50 or something like that. But the other things that Christian Wood brings, just it outweighs some of those talent things and the things that he could bring onto a court. The Mavericks, I would hope at this point of the season could fix it, but the Mavs aren't sold. They're not sold at all in what they're seeing with Christian Wood, what they've seen from him. And you got to remember, we watch the games, right? Like we see the games. We saw that one practice at the beginning of the season at training camp, which was awesome. But we don't get to see practice. We don't get to see what exactly. I can look at what the Mavericks are doing and say, okay, I think Christian Wood's not following the game plan here. I don't know exactly. Jason Kidd knows exactly what's happening and what should be happening. And if he's seeing all the time that what should be happening is not what Christian Wood is making happen, then wouldn't you be frustrated at that player and want to trade that player and want that player out? And so I'm not I know that the Mavericks aren't sold on Christian Wood himself and on the player of him. I know Christian Wood is sold on Christian Wood. He tweeted today that, beat those trade rumors and he wants to make the All-Star team next year and all that stuff. But I'm not sure the Mavericks are sold. I think now what they actually do is he has to play the Bobby Portis role in Milwaukee, right? He comes off the bench. He scores for him a little bit. He becomes a mismatch guy for certain matchups. And then some matchups he doesn't play as much.
Nick, when you talk about frustrations, I imagine sometimes you can be frustrated trying to stick a square peg in a round hole. And in doing that, I mean trying to make a roster that does not have defensive talent into a defensive team. Shout out to Jason Kidd. But with that being the case, where do they go as like a plan of attack, right? We've seen that, especially without Luka Doncic, offense can be something that they can do, and it seems to come fairly easily. Do they just kind of lean into all offense, no breaks type of thing, no defense thing? Are we expecting to see zone defense as like the
zone is for cowards.
the preferred idea of defense? Like what are you expecting to see out of this team?
They'll play the same defense they've been playing. Sean Sweeney's got that installed already. I think that style of defense, if played well and with effort, the one where you're switching a lot, you're allowing, like you're rotating, you got everybody's communicating, you're turning your back to the ball a lot of the times because you're accepting that, all right, I have to rely on this communication. Like if they play that kind of defense, it can make bad defensive players look good, right? The Mavericks did that last year. It all through effort, all through knowing each other, all through communication, were able to play a defense that got them to the Western Conference Finals. And so now they have less defensive talent, you would say, but like, do you really? You're going from, like, you're bringing Maxi Kleber back. That's a huge get after the offense. Some maybe would say, maybe the owner, maybe the front office would say it's almost like a free agency addition. Adding Maxi Kleber after the All-Star break. That is a Twitter joke for everybody. And then, but from last year to this year, you're going from Brunson to Kyrie, maybe like the same. Maybe Kyrie's a little bit better because I think his hands are a little bit better and getting steals and stuff like that. Josh Green from Dorian Finney-Smith. Josh Green didn't really play in the playoffs last year, so you're just changing that. And Josh Green's leap this year has been amazing. Reggie Bullock's the same. Dwight's the same. Tim Hardaway didn't play, but like you're not really changing a lot of the pieces out. So I think they can still play that same kind of defense if Maxey comes back and all that. It'll just be interesting. They can't play certain lineups. You can't play a Christian Wood, Tim Hardaway, Luka, Kyrie, like that kind of lineup. I don't know if you can play Jaden Hardy in the playoffs. I'm not sure what Christian Wood looks like in a playoff series just yet. We know that Dwight Powell is kind of questionable as a defensive player in the playoffs. So that's kind of what you're looking at with this team defensively. And yeah, they don't have exact pieces, but they don't have that many worse pieces than they did last year defensively. They're just kind of in a different place.
Yeah, the year also looks a lot different considering the way that the West has gone. How do you view the West stacking up at this point after the trade deadline? Of course, all theoretically, because we have not actually seen any of the basketball.
Well, you first look at, what the Suns did. Getting Kevin Durant is huge. You get Kevin Durant and you get Devin Booker, and you're like, man, that's the best duo in the NBA. I'm like, is it? Are we sure it's that much better than Luka and Kyrie? I think I would take Luka over Kevin Durant right now, and I think I would take Kyrie over Devin Booker right now, right? Like, it can at least be argued for sure. And so then you look at the other pieces around that, and then Ayton and Chris Paul become the wild cards on that team. And Chris Paul has looked old at times, and Ayton has looked uninterested, or like he didn't want to be there because he did sign with a different team this offseason. So I'm not sure what I'm going to get from that Suns team, but they will be good. The Denver Nuggets have been really good. They've had a hard time defending all year, and so maybe they find a way to put together a playoff defense, and Aaron Gordon and KCP and Bruce Brown are enough to make them a good defensive team in the playoffs, but you can score on them. The Grizzlies have been like unabashed and yelling at everybody and then saying, oh, why does everybody hate us? And you're like, okay, well, I don't know what this Grizzlies team is. And then they fell apart for that week. John Morant said, I'm fine in the West. And then the West decided that they weren't fine with him.
Yeah, not at all.
To go out and get all that going. Not scared of the Kings whatsoever. And then the Clippers, I don't know what's going on with that Clippers team. They just look like they're just a step slow than they have been in the past, even though they're kind of the same team. And then the Warriors are coming up, right? Like the Warriors are getting healthy. It's Steph Curry. I don't know what's going on with that. So you look at the West and you're like, all right, there's nobody that I'm terrified of, but there's definitely teams that the Mavericks would have a hard time with.
Nick Angstadt of Locked On Mavs joining us right here on the Get Right with Reggie KG on 105 through the Fan. So now that we are past the NBA trade deadline, what's the one or two things now? We've seen Kyrie Irving's debut. We're hoping to see Luka by the time we get to the end of the weekend here. What's the one thing on your radar for this Mavs team the most going now post All-Star break once we get there?
There's a couple things. Roster-wise, are there any buyout candidates, right? Is there anybody else that can join the roster? That's the last-ditch effort the Mavs will have to try to add somebody to this group. We talked about buyout candidates today on Locked On Mavs on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Go check it out. And the name that stood out to us was Patrick Beverley. Danny Green's another name that kind of stands out. Maybe Derrick Rose. There's Westbrook and John Wall. There's a couple guys like that really stand out as buyout guys. So we're watching that market. And then it's, of course, how are Luka and Kyrie going to play? We can envision it and we can, dream about it and try and say, man, they're going to play so well together. But how much does that elevate this team? We may see this team play and see Kyrie and Luka play, and it fits so well and it elevates the team so much. The jump from, even Brunson and then Dinwiddie to Kyrie could be so big that all of a sudden we're like, wow, that just covers so many holes that this Mavericks team had because they can guaranteed score on almost every single possession. And so that's something that you have to watch throughout the rest of the season too.
Oh, it's my turn as we're talking to Nick Angstadt. Reggie Jackson, is that the one that you would like the most of the buyout candidates? Which one appeals to you the most for the Mavs?
If I'm looking at buyout candidates, I need somebody that can defend because I need one more defender in this rotation going into the playoffs, right? If you're looking at some of these guys, like, all right, I don't know if I can trust Hardy just yet. I just don't think he's there with his development. Luka and Kyrie are going to have the ball in their hands all the time. Josh Green's going to have the ball in his hands a little bit now. He started to get some more of that role, and I think they want to develop that. I need one more defender. So I'm looking at Patrick Beverley. He at least started on an NBA team over the last year. Now, he was bad. He was not good on the Lakers, but he has shot like 40% since January from three. So at least you know that with Patrick Beverley, you're getting something tenacious. You're going to get something annoying that the other team's not going to like. He's got 6 fouls to give, and then he can hit it. He can knock down a 3. So that's the one I'm looking at. Danny Green with Houston, if Houston does buy him out, that's one I'm interested in. He can come in and be a wing that can defend. And then you're looking at the guard, like the point guard. So if neither of those two guys work and you just want somebody else to handle the ball for the rest of the regular season and maybe a couple minutes here and there in the playoffs, I'm looking at John Wall. I'm looking at Derrick Rose with the Knicks. He's got a big team option next year. Maybe they buy him out and do right by him. Reggie Jackson sounds like he's going to the Suns, but that one's interesting to me. He couldn't play on the Clippers, so I'm not sure how many minutes he's getting on the Mavs.
Yeah.
And then there's an interesting name, the Chicago Bulls. They have got some guards, and then all of a sudden, Goran Dragic is like not playing for them a little bit. So maybe they buy out him, and he decides to go to Dallas finally. And that
I don't know. Would they have a role for him? I don't know. I've heard that's been a problem from time to time.
Got like 4 years of, is Goran Dragic coming to Dallas? And maybe that finally happens.
All right. So obviously there was a very intriguing and bustling trade deadline. Funniest moment of the trade deadline stretch for you, Nick Angstadt?
Oh, it's a great question. I think an underrated funny moment was when the Hornets traded Mason Plumlee for Reggie Jackson. And then there's the report from Shams that the Hornets were going to buy out Reggie Jackson because they, quote unquote, were wanting to promote and to play their young guys more. Like, what have the Hornets been doing all year?
Right.
They've been promoting their young, like they haven't been doing that this whole year. Like what happened to that team? Like, that was a funny moment. You had the funniest moment though of the whole thing that we were on Locked On NBA on the live stream. We were dying laughing. The Clippers traded John Wall back to the Rockets. Remember when John Wall was on Theo Pinson's podcast and trashed the Rockets for 40 minutes and just went off on Rafael Stone and the front office and ownership and all that stuff about the Rockets, called them trash, like just trashed them over and over again. And then he got sent back to the Rockets. He's getting bought out, but it's just hilarious that he's back like with his name next to the Rockets now.
You can find him on Twitter at Nick Van Exit. He is the host on Locked On Mavs and the NBA channel manager and YouTube manager for the Locked On Network. He is the homie, Nick Angstadt. Good enough to join us here on the Get Right for Reggie KG on 105 through the Fan. Nick, good to hear from you as always, man. Thank you.
Get right, gentlemen.
Yes, sir.
There he goes. Nick Angstadt of Locked On Mavs. Good enough to join us here via the Diamond Factory hotline.
I really glazed over for a second there in the interview, and
I didn't know what happened.
It was really unfortunate. Like,
I was like, you okay?
I buffered. I really did. And then it was like, oh, it's my turn. Gotta have a question to ask. So here you go.
Before we go to break, real quick, a couple more awards handed out in NFL honors. This just shows you if the New York Jets had a quarterback worth a damn, they actually would have been pretty good. Because Sauce Gardner is your NFL's Defensive Rookie of the Year. Meanwhile, his teammate, Garrett Wilson, the NFL's Offensive Rookie of the Year, the wide receiver with over 1,100 yards and over 80 catches. Sauce Gardner led the NFL as a rookie in pass breakups this season. Sauce was on one this year. So Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson, your Offensive and Defensive Rookie of the Years, both from the New York Jets. Coming up next here on the Get Right with Reggie KG on 105 through the Fan, we go around the National Football League, get you caught up on the latest news and notes as Super Bowl 57 is approaching. We'll talk about it next at 105 through the Fan.
Coming up on the next K&C Masterpiece, which one of the Super Bowl teams is most likely to build a dynasty from Sunday on? Plus, betting with Bassick. Plus, Masterpiece of the Week. Plus, my quest to interview Joe Montana continues. So tune in 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on The Fan.
Cowboys news begins on the Fan. Gary Jones, Stephen Jones, Mike McCarthy, DeMarcus Lawrence, and Michael Irvin. Oh, not to mention our Super Bowl winning scout Brian Broaddus and insider Bobby Belt. Our competitors listen for the latest news, and so should you. The place to be for Cowboys coverage is 105.3 The Fan.
About to go around the NFL here on the Get Right with Reggie KG on 105.3 The Fan. Kevin Gray, Reginald Atatula.
What's up?
Larry Flores holding it down for you here on You Turn It On, Leave It On station. Really appreciate you joining us here on this Thursday night as we get you that much closer to the weekend and Super Bowl 57. Radio Row continuing for our guys in Arizona through tomorrow. A little programming note with respect to tomorrow evening as the guys return from Arizona. The Get Right will be starting at around 5:30 with Chris Arnold, myself, and Reginald Atatula. So we will be getting on a little bit earlier tomorrow as the fellows make their way back from Phoenix as we get you ready for Super Bowl 57 coming up this weekend. So we will be on with you from about 5:30 to 9 o'clock as kickoff with Boomer and Valenti will Boomer Esiason and Mike Valenti will have kickoff from 9 o'clock, beginning at 9 o'clock tomorrow night. So a little programming note there. We're also live on Twitch at twitch.tv/DallasFanCam and also on YouTube. Go to 105 through the Fan on YouTube. Make sure you hit the subscribe button while you are there, and you can watch any of our interviews from Radio Row throughout the course of the week, anytime on demand. Speaking of Radio Row, at 9:20 tonight, Amanda Guerra of CBS Sports HQ is going to be joining us here live on the Get Right. So look forward to that. And Kevin Haglin, of the KSC Masterpiece.
Yeah, we'll catch up with him from out in the greater Phoenix area.
That'll be at 10 o'clock tonight.
Or Scottsdale, whatever they are.
All right, here on the Get Right. Let's go around the NFL right here, Larry, on your home of the Dallas Cowboys. As it is NFL Honors Night, awards being handed out for the best performances and players of the year in the National Football League. And right now, it's pretty much going according to a plan for a lot of people who were predicting some of these awards, as Nick Bosa is the AP's NFL Defensive Player of the Year, beating out the likes of Micah Parsons, Hassan Reddick, Quinnen Williams, and Chris Jones. Surprisingly, Micah Parsons did not get a single first-place vote for NFL's Defensive Player of the Year, which I find a little surprising.
Why?
Well, I mean, he was really good. I know things toward the second half of the year tailed off a little bit.
About when people are making their votes? A little bit of recency bias might creep in that way?
Maybe.
Huh?
But
this is also another thing. This ain't no academy. Ain't no academy doing this.
No. This is the AP voting.
You know what I'm saying? Like, why?
But Quinnen Williams getting the first place vote. I know he was really good. Don't get me wrong. He was really good. But just saying. I thought that was a little disrespectful to Micah Parsons. But it is what it is. Nick Bosa getting 46 of the first place votes for NFL's Defensive Player of the Year. Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, your offensive and defensive rookie of the years, both from the New York Jets. Great point that Reg made. And also from the 972, don't forget if Breece Hall was healthy, he might have gotten it as well. The talented running back for the Jets before he tore up his
And the
ACL.
wild part about it is also Zonovan Knight came in after Breece Hall got hurt and was cooking too. Like, it just seems like the New York Jets, so much talent. And you know what question that arises for me? How are they going to mess it up?
Well, they did so because Zach Wilson was awful this year. And if they have a quarterback going into 2023.
There it is. They won't have a quarterback. There it is. Thanks for helping me find it.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
If they can find one, they might have a chance to be able to be much better in the the AFC East going into next year. But that clearly was their demise, was the fact that they didn't have a dude who could throw the football consistently, which makes it all the more amazing that Garrett Wilson still had over 1,100 yards receiving this year.
Oh, yeah. He was down there. He was just down there, and it was like, look, man,
We're
down there
that guy.
Yeah. Go to him. Man, I remember there was a couple of times I could vividly recall in my memory right now where he was double covered, and it was like, it's cool. He gonna get it. Like, it's always fun to see them dudes, and I'm not sure if I want to definitively say that he's one of the dudes that's always open, but it's always fun to see dudes who operate in that I am open even though I am not open situation for however long. If it's just a dude having one day where he seems to be able to catch anything and everything, that's the stuff that I personally love to see, is just a wide receiver always open, even when they covered.
Speaking of wide receivers that were always open and catching everything, yeah, Justin Jefferson.
That's right.
Runaway NFL's Offensive Player of the Year for the Minnesota Vikings. All he did was lead the NFL in catches, receiving yards, and was dynamite this year for Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Viking passing game. So congratulations, Justin Jefferson. And finally, so far this evening, D'Amico Ryans was named the AP's Assistant Coach of the Year, the new head coach now of the Houston Texans. I completely
get that. I also, and this is the thing, is I've been battling in my mind how much credit to give to, well, I mean, not like it matters how much credit I personally give him, but like how I view D'Amico Ryans this season. I truly think he's a good coach, but again, what do I know? The tough thing about it is, like, it's not like that defense was wildly complex. They had dogs, and
that helps.
Hey, man, if you have dogs and you let them eat, or if you put them in the right places to be successful, right, you deserve some credit. My brain is, for some reason, just continues to mull on them. Where I'm like, what do I do with that? Like, where do I find, sit on that? And ultimately, I might not find a place to sit with that person, but it's something that keeps coming to mind. Also, just going backwards, because this is something that I thought, and I kind of just want to say it. Was Justin Jefferson the only, definitively really good thing for the Vikings this year? In a year where they had a good record, but I never felt confident about them at any point?
Offensively?
At all.
Yes.
Like, offense, defense, all of it. Like, I think Justin Jefferson was the only thing that I go, that's the thing.
Yep, that works. By the way, Micah Parsons already commenting on the fact that he didn't get a single Defensive Player of the Year vote.
He love him some tweeting, don't he?
As of a minute ago. Say less. Y'all gonna see me next year.
Okay, good. I like that. Yeah. Let's go ahead and snub Micah every year. Put a chip on that man's shoulder. Good luck to quarterbacks.
Speaking of quarterbacks, Larry, Derek Carr may soon have a new home if he's going to be headed to the Big Easy, possibly.
This guy is still going. It is day 2 for the Derek Carr visit to the New Orleans Saints, and there is a little bit of urgency here. Of course, we know that Derek Carr's contract becomes fully guaranteed, triggers the 3rd day after the Super Bowl. So at some point soon, there needs to be some sort of resolution, but not anytime today. I would not expect any sort of deal or trade today, but Derek Carr really soaking it in New Orleans, went to dinner with New Orleans brass along with head coach Dennis Allen last night. It was no doubt a tasty Bayou-type meal. I'm a little jealous of that, I got to be completely honest. Back in the building today for a little bit of wooing. So here's where it stands. The Saints are considered to be the front runner for Derek Carr. To get permission to speak with him, they needed to not come to terms on a trade, but show the Raiders that they are at least going to be in the ballpark. We'll see if the two sides can work it out and if Carr gives the okay, but at least a significant step today.
I think this ends with Derek Carr becoming a member of the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, you didn't hear all the stuff that he said, right? Like, they kind of want to get this done before, or like pretty much by the time the Super Bowl happens, which is soon, like a few days. I don't know. Have you heard of any other teams that he has sat down with?
No.
Have you heard of any teams that have already basically pre-negotiated the contract or like the deal?
Nope.
Right? Like, it seems like all of these things are lined up in such a way where it is a reasonable expectation that is where he goes. Hey, shout out to that man. If you want to live in a place, living in New Orleans is not a bad one to choose, especially if you got money, particularly if you got money. If you don't got money, that gets a little dicey. But hey, if you got money, New Orleans, fun place. Just stay in the right places. Don't go to them corners that you shouldn't be at. That's all I'm saying.
I'm sorry to disappoint you, 214, who is hosting the NFL Honors. If it's not Steve Harvey, I'm not watching. Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you. But it is Burleson's own Kelly Clarkson who's hosting the NFL Honors.
Who was wearing a Dallas Cowboys dress. Of course, the top, the like kind of torso area of it had it was basically an 88 jersey, a bedazzled 88 jersey. The actual flowing dress part of it, right? Mm-hmm. Had a whole bunch of like the name patches from various Cowboys on it. So she was really repping the local team, the hometown team and everything. So yeah, she is doing it big.
Brian Daboll is your AP Coach of the Year.
Whatever. As
he has just won that award. At
I can't even be mad, man. That was a well-coached team. That was a very, like, in all the metrics that we, the onlookers, can look at and say that, a team is well-coached, they exhibited that. They exuded that level of well-coachedness,
I mean,
to coin a phrase.
The leap that Daniel Jones took alone this year, Dan Orlovsky's comments be damned. Brian Daboll did a hell of a job turning that team around. And for me personally, I knew something was different with this team because I think it was week 1 on the road against Tennessee. Brian Daboll said, we're going for the win. And they went for 2, and they wound up beating Tennessee in their own building during the early part of the year. And I think that set a tone for them about what kind of mindset that they were going to have throughout the course of the year. Brian Daboll helping the New York Giants not only get to the playoffs, but defeat the Minnesota Vikings in the playoffs to advance to the divisional round where they ultimately lost to the Philadelphia
To an actual
Eagles.
football team.
You could say that. That's your trip around the NFL here on the Get Right on 105.3 The Fan. We'll keep you up to date on the other NFL awards that are being handed out tonight, including the Walter Payton's Man of the Year award and whether or not DeMarcus Ware and Darren Woodson will get the call to the Hall tonight. We'll keep you up to date on that later on. Coming up next, though, here on the Get Right, how in the world is the West now stacking up now that Kevin Durant is with the Phoenix Suns? We'll talk about that next on 105 through the Fan.
35 minutes of commercial-free Fan. Holy mackerel. It's the Expressway with Sean and RJ mornings at 7:20, KNC middays at 12:20, and afternoons with G-Bag at 5:20 right here on 105.3 The Fan and the Odyssey app.
This is the exclusive home of Dallas Cowboys football. KRLD FM and HD1, Dallas, Fort Worth. Let's go, Cowboys.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
From our fan studios secured by DFWsecurity.com, it's time for the Get Right on 105.3 The Fan.
Hour number 2 to Get Right. We're Reg and KG on 105.3 The Fan. Kevin Gray, Reginald Atatula.
What up, though?
My man Larry Flores on the down for you here on You Turn It On, Leave It On station 105.3 The Fan. How does the Western Conference stack up now that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are in the West? We'll have a little NBA conversation right here on 105.3 The Fan. Really appreciate you joining us on this Thursday night. Coming up here in 19 minutes, Amanda Guerra of CBS Sports HQ is going to join us live from Phoenix, Arizona. Radio Row continuing this week, and looking forward to having Amanda on the program coming up here in 19 minutes. You can find me on Twitter at Kevin Gray Sports. You can find Reg on Twitter at Reg Atatula, where the NBA decided, hey, we don't give a damn that it's Super Bowl week because we got business to handle. And 16 trades later in a 13-hour span that started with Kevin Durant being traded from the Brooklyn Nets to the Phoenix Suns, got a lot of this started. And now we are at a point where all the damage has been done. The grade trades are being handed out. The trade grades, hello.
Yep, the grade trades.
Yep.
I'm going to trade you that B. I'm going to trade you an A for 2 Bs. How about that? How's that sound?
I'd like to buy a vowel.
Okay, fantastic.
But the trade grades now being handed out. But the Western Conference in particular, just a week ago, didn't have Kyrie Irving and it didn't have Kevin Durant. And now all of a sudden, Nikola Jokic looks around. And by the way, congratulations, John Morant, for breaking the Western Conference after saying how comfortable you were in it. Not so much anymore. The Western Conference, Reg, is flipped upside down now.
Yeah, it's pretty tough when all things considered. So we just kind of want to map out, and really what I think for my personal purposes, let's see what the Mavericks are up against right now, right? Because obviously if you look at the standings, the Mavericks are sitting in a pretty reasonable spot, right? Coming out of the trade deadline. I didn't even realize that they were 4. They were previously sitting at 5, and of course I guess the win against the Clippers gave them that game difference, or made up that game difference that they had with the Clippers. So they are sitting as the 4 seed. If everything was to stop right now, they would have a home field or home court advantage rather. Fact of the matter, though, is there's still like a third of the season that you have to get through, and that means that you have to play through with all of the changes that have happened on some of these teams. So as the standings stand right now, the Denver Nuggets are number 1, and they still feel like the best team in the West to me. That is a team with depth. That is a team that, honestly, I understand we were talking with Nick Angstadt, and he was talking about how like they could give up some scores, and they have been they've won 5 of their last 10, so they've not been great in the last stretch. However, they still have a very good defensive rating. Like this is a team that plays good basketball. I know what you're smiling at. Don't worry about it. We will get to it. But yes, the Nuggets, great. They have a star player. They have multiple dudes that can go get buckets on their own. Premierly, if you're talking about Jamal Murray, sometimes Michael Porter Jr. can step into that role. They've got guys that can defend on the perimeter. They've got guys that can really. They've got a deep rotation. So like they have the different ways to play I think that you need in the playoffs. They're still up there for me. How do you feel about the Memphis Grizzlies?
Oh boy, still a very well coached team. Still having the likes of Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson. They've got a good solid group that now you look at the Western Conference, they're going to have their hands full. Dylan Brooks and this group, scrappy, talented group.
Dylan Brooks in this group.
Well, I mean, he is one of their defensive guys. I mean, I think part of their identity is this, young, fun, but tough basketball team, or at least they come off that way. Because it's weird. Okay, I got to stop down this for just a quick second. Is it kind of weird how we talk about the Grizzlies, or how the Grizzlies feel like we talk about them? Because I think they feel like we are disrespecting them in a lot of ways, or that we hate on the Grizzlies in a lot of ways, which I don't necessarily tend to think I necessarily do. Or is that something that they feel from the outside is happening based on maybe how they're portrayed, or how some of the things situationally have gone down with them that don't necessarily have to do with basketball.
I think with them, they are getting some of like the small market complex. And also, they don't have a lot of superstars. They have John Morant.
Right.
And then they have like a team built of a whole bunch of other dudes. And I don't mean to denigrate those dudes, because I do think that they have a nice grip of guys, but they just don't have a lot of dudes, if you know what I mean. So I think that with people, obviously we in the NBA landscape in particular are drawn to the superstars. We're drawn to talking about Kevin Durant. We're drawn to talking about LeBron. We're drawn to talking about Luka Doncic. We're drawn to talking about Steph Curry, even Damian Lillard. And I don't think that people have been drawn to talk about the Memphis Grizzlies. So in a year where the Western Conference, at the top of it, you have the Denver Nuggets, the Memphis Grizzlies, and the Sacramento Kings. A lot of the talk has been about why the Clippers aren't, all the way together yet. What are the Pelicans doing, and is Zion going to come back? Why are the Lakers sitting as the 13th, best team in the West, right? The attention that you would anticipate being one of the top 2 seeds isn't there, and I imagine that's why they feel that way. However, hey man, y'all are going to have to prove it in the playoffs. And yes, they won a series last year, which was good. People still feel like they are young and that they don't have a lot of experience, so there's some questions, and I'm interested to see how theirs are answered when they go up against some teams with some much more heavier hitters. Now, the Sacramento Kings sit third in the conference. I still, just like Nick Angstadt, I still don't believe.
I don't either. I mean, they're a young, fun team to watch,
but the
that's
playoffs
all
are different.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what they are right now, young and fun.
So, who are the tough teams? Because we mentioned Nuggets, we mentioned the Grizzlies. Obviously, the Kings are next. The Mavericks are there, but like, who are the teams that you have some concerns about when you start to get to playoff, like teams that can make noise in the playoffs? And I don't mean just make noise as like, oh, come in and disrupt. I mean teams that could be heavy hitters possibly.
I mean, initially, the Nuggets and now the Suns have vaulted themselves into legitimate championship contendership now.
Now the problem though is injury. Because they have dealt with, Chris Paul's been injured, Devin Booker's been injured, Kevin Durant's had some injury this year. Now they got rid of the little depth that they had to bring Kevin Durant in, so it is really going to be incumbent on 4 dudes: Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Chris Paul, and DeAndre Ayton. All those guys have to be healthy and productive, but if they are, yes, you're right, that is a monster.
And really, those are, out of the West, the 2 true championship contenders in my mind, because we just talked about Memphis, still a young team that's been dealing with a little bit of injury. Yes, Jared Jackson's played really well for them. They've got Desmond Bane back now who can really shoot it. Sacramento, young, fun team, but not really viewed as a true championship contender.
Sure, but okay, let's move it a little bit beyond championship contender, because I think I agree with that. But let's talk about who's contending with the Mavericks and the level that the Mavericks are on. Because I don't know, are you putting the Mavericks as a true championship contender at this point?
No.
Okay, I'm not either. But we're in that next level down, the next rung down that I imagine we have the Mavericks in. Who are you talking about as competing with them? Because the Jazz seem to have decided that they're okay with their season slipping away. The Thunder seem to have decided they're okay with their season slipping away. The Trailblazers as well.
I would have the Mavericks, the Clippers, the Pelicans, and the Warriors.
All in that same place.
And I'll probably now throw in the Lakers, even though they are 5 games below 500. I think the moves that they have made allow them to have a lot more roster flexibility, and they look like a team with some versatility defensively with Jared Vanderbilt. You've got LeBron, you've got AD, D'Angelo Russell now going to run the point, and now let them tell it. Moving on from Russell Westbrook is going to free up just the air and the nature, apparently, of what they've got going on in Los Angeles. So I would put the Lakers in that category as well, even with them being 5 games under 500.
Okay, so within that tier, you mentioned the Lakers, you mentioned the Warriors, you mentioned the Pelicans, you mentioned the Clippers. Versatility is an interesting word there, because I feel like you have a split of 2 teams that have a little bit of versatility in play and 2 teams that don't have a ton of versatility in play competing with the Mavericks. How do you think that the Mavericks match up with that group?
With the Pelicans, I could see them winning a series against them. They've got the 2 best players on the floor in that series, even with Zion Williamson there. Luka and Kyrie, I'm taking over the Pelicans.
Oh, you really just want to break it down to just 2 best players? Because that's really going to be a question for the Mavericks. Is 2 best players going to be enough to get you over? Because it feels like they have 2 best players and not a lot else.
In a first-round series, if you're taking on the Clippers or you're taking on the Pelicans, because I think Phoenix will find a way to climb themselves up the Western Conference. I don't anticipate them being in the sixth spot. I would take my chances in a first-round series with just Kyrie and Luka going against the Pelicans, the Timberwolves. The Warriors, they're the wild card here because Stephen Curry, depending on how much longer he's going to be out with his knee injury, that's going to tell us a lot about what the Warriors could be going for the rest of the season as well.
It's interesting. Yeah, the thing for me with the Mavericks, and the one thing that I've consistently thought of since the trade for Kyrie, and especially since the trade deadline where you did not shake anything up and you did not add any defensive players, there's one way to play, which is all gas, no brakes.
Yeah, all offense, all the time.
And again, they're going to try and play defense because that's what Sean Sweeney does. That's what Jason Kidd wants them to do. So they're going to attempt, and maybe they cobble together something that works enough, right? That's enough of a speed bump to make it so that other teams don't have a great opportunity. But it really does feel like they're going to try and track meet every game. And the scary part about it is what happens if you meet up against a team that is well equipped to play that different style of basketball that meets up with that style, right? Again, styles make fights in these types of things, and really in the playoffs, I think the biggest thing is it's not about what you can do, it's about what you can't do. And so a team like, you mentioned Golden State, they have some different things that they're capable of doing. A team like the Pelicans also, they have some different things they can do. It's a little bit more narrow, but it also juxtaposes kind of nicely with the Mavericks because they do play a pretty good brand of defense as well. So yeah, I'm really interested in this, and of course, all of this is really hypothetical. We haven't seen a lot of these teams with their moves. We haven't seen the Mavericks fully constituted with their moves. So I think these are the things that we're going to have to watch over the next, 10, 20 games to get a feel for how we feel going into the playoffs.
And I do wonder...
And whether this Kyrie pairing works with the team.
Yeah, because one of the things that we saw last night with Kyrie and the Mavericks specifically was the pace of play and how much that changed and how much they were able to get out in transition and really put the Clippers to pressure, even in half-court situations, with Kyrie's ability to get downhill and create for himself and also some looks for his teammates. How does Luka now find a way, I think, to be able to, at times, speed up his own game? Because I don't think will be a hallmark of his game ever throughout his career, playing at that kind of pace. But I think he has the capability of doing that a little bit more often. And when you're playing alongside of Kyrie, you'll be able to do some of those things. And I think Luka is smart enough and just athletic enough to be able to push the pace at times, which I think it will be a good thing for the Mavericks, especially when you watch Josh Green and Jaden Hardy and others get out in transition. I think that'll be something that will be very interesting to watch for this team.
How do you think Luka's going to rise to the challenge? Like, there's a couple of challenges. Jason Kidd was talking about the idea of playing next to another superstar being something that clearly Kyrie has done for all of his career. Luka Doncic hasn't. Right, rising to that challenge, rising to the challenge of making sure to have pace. Also rising to the challenge of probably needing to be better on defense. Like, how do you see all of those things panning out?
I think he'll be fine. This is not a superstar that I believe is selfish. I think he understands what he is relative to his franchise and what Kyrie means coming to his team and being able to take some of that load off of him. Because now what I start to think about going into not just the rest of the regular season, but really into the playoffs, when you have someone that you know can take some of that burden off of you, now you go into the fourth quarter with a different kind of mindset that you don't have to feel like you have to go get it all for 12 minutes in the fourth quarter by yourself.
Yeah.
And Jason Kidd's even talked about messing with some of the rotational minutes for some of these guys and what that's going to look like for the rest of the regular season as well. But for me, that's the fun part I think about is come playoff time and you get to the fourth quarter, oh boy, now you've got Kyrie and Luka being able to feed off of one another and what that could do for Luka in terms of some of his stamina because of all the basketball that he's played and what that could mean for him.
All right. I'm really excited.
I'm intrigued
because in some ways you can say, man, the West got really, a lot tougher. But also you can also look at the ways that the Mavericks have paths forward and the ways that the ceiling has been increased.
And we haven't talked about Maxi Kleber coming back.
No.
As part of, the defensive help that you're hopefully going to get. Christian Wood is going to remain here. So what can you get from him coming off the bench as he continues to try and impress this team about what he can and can't be going forward here? So, yeah, post All-Star break, It's going to be all gas, no brakes, and what that offense is going to look like. It's to Get Right with Reggie KG right here on 105.3 The Fan. Coming up next, we continue our own version and extension of Radio Row. Amanda Guerra of CBS Sports HQ. She's going to join us live from Phoenix. Next on 105.3 The Fan.
All day, every day, bringing you insights and information no one has right here on The Fan and on the Odyssey app. Listen. Stream the Fan 24/7 all day, every day. Download the Odyssey app or listen live at 1053thefan.com.
This segment of The Fan is brought to you by Frankel and Frankel. There is a reason you need a special license to drive a big truck. So companies that hire drivers and put them in a big truck should be held accountable for what happens when one hurts you. Frankly, you need Frankel and Frankel. The consultation, it's always free. Visit truckwreck.com.
It's the Get Right with Reggie KG on 105.3 of The Fan. Kevin Gray, Reginald Atatula.
Yo.
Larry Flores holding it down for you here. Appreciate you joining us on Odyssey and the Odyssey app. Coming up here in just a couple of moments via the Diamond Factory hotline. Amanda Guerra of CBS Sports HQ is going to be joining us here live from Phoenix, Arizona, as it is NFL Honors Night. And we can't go any further until we acknowledge that the NFL's Comeback Player of the Year.
Because this is the year that Geno Smith put it all together. Tried to told you. I did. I tried to told you.
He is the NFL's Comeback Player of the Year. The quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks beats out the likes of Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley for that award. So, Reg, ISO!
Y'all didn't want to listen to your boy. Y'all thought your boy was kidding. Y'all thought he didn't know nothing. Now you know. Please believe. Listen to me now. Believe me later on. All that, so on and so forth. But look, I tried to tell you why, because some folks are like, why is this such a thing for you? Well, for one, I like being right, and it feels good to be right. Let me tell you. But honestly, y'all was so down on Geno. Y'all wanted to crack jokes about Geno, not even the good jokes about him getting stole on, right? It was just, oh man, Geno's bad and all these things, right? He's 30-something. Fact of the matter was, Geno always had talent, as I'm sure our friend Larry Flores can tell you. Right, Larry Flores will remind you, Geno Smith had talent, and not only that, like this
talent
ain't just college.
Austin.
This ain't even just college football talent, right? We saw him start to put these things together in the NFL. He just had a barrel of bad luck, just boatloads of bad luck. So when he was getting an opportunity to be a starter again, I was like, look, man, he's been in that offense. He knows what they expect. And he has the capability to do it. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and bet on the idea, at least one, that y'all are way too low on him, and two, that he can make something shake. You know what he did? Make something shake. You're welcome.
How you feel?
Feels good, man.
You feel good?
Feels great.
All right.
I've already taken a few victory laps on this. It really, honestly, it's probably illegal that I keep taking these victory laps.
Well, it's been validated now by the actual award itself.
I've taken so many victory laps on this all season. Like, the first point, remember, it was like week 2 maybe, and everybody was like, oh. And I was like, yep, told you. And then it was like we got to the middle of the season.
Okay,
like,
but let's keep it all the way a buck.
Okay.
We've been waiting on this for 10 years.
They ain't give him a shot.
He had plenty of shots.
No, he didn't. Where were the plenty of the shots?
The Jets.
And then that was the first thing where he was putting it together, and then he got stolen, right? They broke his jaw.
Your boy Ben McAdoo believed in him so much that he sat Eli Manning.
That wasn't a chance. That wasn't a chance.
That was a chance.
No, right? And he didn't play poorly, but you know what happened? They fired him for the thought of not playing Eli Manning. That ain't no chance. They got that man out of there, put Eli Manning back to work. They were like, we're sorry for that. You had to suffer the indignity of playing, sitting on the bench.
My favorite part of this conversation is Larry's faces right now, because
he's so sick right now.
He should have seen this coming. If anybody should have seen this coming, it's Larry, because of what Geno Smith did to his Texas Longhorns, way back when. So there is some of that. Also, Micah Parsons, who presented the NFL's Defensive Player of the Year award a little bit earlier with the artist Her. Alec Medford wasn't feeling that.
Oh, why? Oh, is he about to be the dude that it's like, if I see somebody that I have some attraction to with anybody else, I'm sick? Oh man, he gonna have to grow up. It's gonna be rough times for him. Oh boy.
He jumped in my mentions because I said, hey, that's a good look for Micah Parsons next to Her. And he jumped in my mentions. Don't do that.
He's just gonna be sick.
He went full.
Are we getting stood up right now?
Oh, no.
That's wild.
Oh, no. Well, hopefully we'll get in contact with her here in just a moment. Let me not use that word.
Whoa.
I was gonna say interesting, but it's not interesting. It's a little weird. Michael Irvin, who was removed from the NFL Network's coverage of the Super Bowl this week and from his appearance tomorrow on ESPN's First Take for alleged misconduct in terms of some behavior that he had with a woman earlier this week during Super Bowl week, has now filed a scathing $100 million lawsuit against the woman, accusing him of misconduct, alleging, quote, he is being railroaded with false accusations that are ruining his career, and that he is, quote, the latest victim of cancel culture.
Okay. All right. I know one place where Michael Irvin was on in front of a mic this week, and it happened to be on 105 through the fan with Sean and RJ.
Right.
I have a little bit of a hard time, and was not there. I cannot tell you what did and did not happen. I do have a little bit of a hard time making that jive with the things that we heard on Sean and RJ this week. That being said, not for me to decide ultimately, but oof. Also, just the idea that, because this isn't like a countersuit. This was not a she was suing him for money thing. She just let somebody know, and now she's being sued for a whole bunch of money, which feels to me, again, I have no idea what these situations are, but it feels to me like I will use my access to lawyers to bully, which doesn't really feel good to me personally. Just being honest.
Well, according to the lawsuit, witnesses backed Irvin's initial claim that he, quote, casually exchanged pleasantries with the woman, shook her hand, and went to his room alone. However, once Irvin and his team became aware of the allegations, they say they attempted to provide witness accounts to the hotel in an effort to rectify any misunderstanding, but they say the Renaissance, which is the hotel, refused to listen. This coming from TMZ and TMZ Sports.
Wait a minute. So we're saying that there's witnesses, and you said there's video?
Yes. And he has said that, or that has been said by, reports that there is video of this encounter.
Okay.
Now, in fact, the lawsuit accuses the hotel manager of reporting the alleged incident to the NFL, quote, with the intention of damaging that relationship and, quote, canceling Michael Irvin. Now, his attorney.
Wait, so who all is the defendants on this lawsuit? It's the woman or the hotel?
It's the woman. He is saying this is part of the suit that he is making, the evidence that he is that he's claiming here. His attorney, Levi McCatherine, says his client's reputation has not only been damaged, but he has also lost out on money, canceled appearances as a result of the false allegations. The attorney tells TMZ, quote, it is clear Michael is the latest victim of our cancel culture, where all it takes is an accusation to ruin a person's life. Michael looks forward to clearing his name in court and hopes the court of public opinion will see the truth come out as well, end quote. So,
well, okay then. That's really very uncomfortable. And I really don't know what to say beyond what we have already said. Kevin, do you have more things to say?
No, it's just that is the latest on that particular situation when it comes to Michael Irvin. And it sounds like
very difficult segue to the Diamond Factory hotline as we go out to the greater Phoenix area.
I think our next guest is going to help us out, though. Via the Diamond Factory hotline of CBS Sports HQ, Amanda Guerra joining us here on the Get Right on 105 through the Fan. Amanda, what's going on?
What is up, my friends? I am so sorry. I've had terrible cell service. But hi, how are you guys?
I don't think we're doing as well as you are. I think I saw a photo of you of being television ready, but also eating chicken wings.
Yeah.
So it seems like you're just having a ball out there in Arizona.
Look, man, if people put chicken wings in front of me, I cannot say no. That might be my favorite food on earth. But yeah, you deliver chicken wings, I'm gonna eat them.
Now, Amanda has one of my favorite takes when it comes to chicken wings.
Well, what is this?
Drums are 100
over flats.
all day long.
Y'all just keep promoting this divisiveness that is unnecessary. We just need wing unity. It's all the same wing. Ain't no difference.
No, there is difference.
Okay, I appreciate that. I get it. Like wings over no wings, and
That's right.
I think we can all agree like boneless wings are BS. It's just a chicken tender.
That's right.
But that said, like drums over flats all day. All day.
I'm just going to respectfully agree to disagree because we don't even have enough time to do all of this. What has been your favorite part of the week out in Super Bowl or the Super Bowl week? Because where are you guys actually? Are you guys actually in Scottsdale? Where are you guys trafficking?
No, so most people, my set for CBS, we are at the Super Bowl Experience, which is in downtown LA. So most people are staying in downtown LA. Nobody will really go to Glendale until Sunday. So I'll be there Sunday. Everybody else will be there Sunday. But for the most part, everybody's either in Scottsdale or downtown LA. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's been cool. There's a lot of people here.
Okay, so what's been your favorite part about it thus far?
Are you teeing me up on what I think you're teeing me up on?
I wasn't, but you know what? Let's go ahead and do that because I did see earlier today you happened to speak to Cowboys linebacker, defensive end, whatever, superstar, Micah Parsons, and it sounded like you guys had a interesting experience, let's say.
Yeah, so Micah came on our set, amazing guy, love him. And by the way, he's like, I'm done with awards, don't care, I just want to win. Love it. So we were doing like a rapid fire question, right? And at the very end, my co-host at the time, who's two-time Super Bowl champ, Brian McFadden, and the very last question we said was like, what do not many people know about you? And like, I don't know the guy, but he said it on air, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I have a foot fetish. So I'm thinking it's going to be like, yo, I love pedicures. I love like shoes and like my dunks and whatever.
Right.
No, he goes feet before face.
Wow.
So Rihanna is doing the halftime show. Look, it's Rihanna.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, he had already admitted, like, if you had anything like embarrassing on your playlist, he said it was Shakira, which is not embarrassing.
Not at all.
Everybody should embrace that. We're like, if you see Shakira or Riri, and then they're talking to you, and then you see their feet and you don't like them, he goes, nah, man, I'm done. He goes, I'll be polite. I'll talk to him. He's like, but if I'm talking to a girl, I got to see the feet. I got to know what's going on.
Wow. We have a boomerang situation happening.
About Micah Parsons.
I've somehow learned too much about Micah Parsons.
Completely too much already.
That's incredible. Okay, Amanda, if we had to turn that question on you, what is something about you that not a lot of people know?
That's a great question.
I know you asked it.
Chocolate chip cookies are trash.
Whoa! Now hold on, Amanda. Now wait a minute. We was real cool till you just said that.
Clapping, though. I hear clapping.
No, that's Reggie clapping.
Right.
Not me. Not at all.
But Reggie agrees.
I mean, to some extent, I appreciate not putting chocolate chip cookies as like a Patrick Mahomes of the field that people try and do.
Because it is.
It is not.
As long as he doesn't say.
We're going with the Jalen Hurts, and Jalen is an oatmeal cookie. And that is way better than a chocolate chip cookie.
See, this is why we're friends.
Wow.
This is why we are friends.
This is really disappointing right now. That's so disappointing to find out. But that's okay. Well, it's okay.
It's fine. I mean, you asked for like something. Yeah, I think chocolate chip cookies are terrible. Like, it's like little hard little pieces of chocolate. You get caught in your teeth. Like chocolate, like oatmeal raisin cookies. Like they're chewy, like salty, sweet. It's the best of all worlds.
I'm wondering where you're getting these chocolate chip cookies from, Amanda. However,
Completely,
I don't
yes.
want to lose an ally here, so I'm just going to continue moving forward. We're talking to Amanda Guerra, CBS Sports HQ. You can see that every weekday, CBS Sports HQ.
CBS Sports Network too. What's up?
There you go. Where was I going? Oh, yes. So obviously Super Bowl is happening, right? Like, we just jumped right into this conversation. Have not talked about that at all. What would you say is like the thing that you were most appreciative to learn or about the game through your coverage of the Super Bowl road this week?
Like actually the Super Bowl or like the game of football? The Super Bowl.
Either, actually. I'm kind of intrigued. Where did your mind go with football in general?
Man, so this is the thing that I love about this particular Super Bowl is, so like if you guys cover the league, right? By the time we get to the Super Bowl, storylines are dead. Like we are reaching every single day somehow to make this game interesting. With this particular Super Bowl, it's incredible. I mean, you have like the first two black quarterbacks, like the youngest guys, combined ages. You have Andy Reid, who's 64 years old. You have Nick Sirianni, who's 41. You have the two first brothers competing in the Super Bowl. This Super Bowl is no lack for storylines, and it is like no matter who you were cheering for, it will be a victory because it's a beautiful storyline no matter what. Like either you're going to be Patrick Mahomes, this is a dynasty, or Jalen Hurts, who was looked over so many times, had to transfer, and so many people think this Eagles team, if they start winning, like, or get a Super Bowl, obviously they're winning so far, this could potentially be a dynasty team. Like, and what's crazy is most of our experts are saying, I think the Chiefs will win because of Patrick Mahomes, because of Andy Reid, because of the experience. Most of the players we talk to believe the Chiefs are going to win, or excuse me, the Eagles are going to win because of how dynamic and how much depth this team has. And it's just, I think that's my favorite thing about the Super Bowl is like, no matter what, it is just, it's historic, it's storylines, it's beautiful.
Amanda Guerra of CBS Sports joining us right here on the Get Right with Reg and KG on 105.3 The Fan. So as we look forward to this game, who are you picking to win the Super Bowl on Sunday between the Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs?
This is very hard. So I've been asked this like 1,000 times, and I'm sticking with the same thing. I don't know if I believe it or not.
That's the way to do it. Just give an answer, regardless of whether you believe it.
So I just got to go with what I've been saying all week because they're like, oh, give me a bold prediction. I am going with the Chiefs because of pure experience. Because we've seen like last year, like in the NBA Finals, right? Like you see the team with more experience win. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I'm going to go with Andy Reid. I'm going to go with Patrick Mahomes. Hopefully he's healthy. But my bold prediction is Travis Kelce will throw a touchdown pass and be named the first tight end MVP of a Super Bowl.
I like
that. That is my bold prediction. Mark it down, and then everybody can send me money when I'm right.
Okay. Yeah. That is Amanda Guerra. Make sure to send her money when she's correct. Outside of learning very odd things about pass rusher Micah Parsons, what kind of things through your work, through your interviews, and all of that did you learn this week that you had really a lot of fun with?
So I'll go back to Micah. Did you guys know that he was a running back in high school?
I think so.
Maybe. So this is wild. So we pulled up, we had CeeDee Lamb on earlier, and we pulled up Micah Parsons' high school highlight tape. And we're like, hey, we're going to show you, this is a tape of one of your teammates. And within 2 seconds, he goes, oh, that's Micah. And Micah was a running back. And so it was crazy that he could pick him out. So when we talked to Micah, though, I thought it was crazy because he was like, I have not honed my craft. He goes, because I'm so new to this position still. He goes, I've been running on pure adrenaline and like rawness for the first couple of years. He goes, now it's time to learn the game. And we had to like clarify, be like, dude, so you're saying like you're just like 2021 defensive rookie player of the year on pure raw talent and nothing else. He goes, yes, absolutely. He goes, now I want to hone my craft. And that is wild that he's been able to do it on that skill level.
Amanda, did you? Oh no, you said you guys aren't in Phoenix. Okay, so let me just ask this: were you at the media party?
No, I skipped it. I was very tired.
Oh, you skipped it? You skipped the media party?
Here, I know. I was very, very asleep. I'm on a 14-day road trip, so when I can get sleep, I get sleep.
Oh man, well that just completely ruined the second
Reggie
question.
had a whole fire question ready for you.
We can talk about whatever you want. What was it?
No, I just wanted to see like who was the most fun person that you have met outside of Micah Parsons at this point.
Dan, look, I can just already tell you, it was Mama Kelsey, right? Like Donna Kelsey, who has both of her sons in the Super Bowl. You saw she brought cookies on stage, right?
Oh, I missed
Donna
this.
Kelsey is owning the Super Bowl. Oh, yeah. She brought homemade cookies for both Travis and Jason in little containers, like clearly homemade. And there was this whole petition, obviously, to get her to do the coin flip, and it's not going to happen. Mama Kelsey is the star of the Super Bowl. So even not being there, that is my favorite part.
Oh, you're done, KG?
I wanted to ask her before we got out of here because love her and her antics with her normal partner on a day-to-day basis, Chris Hassel.
Yeah, you need to stop bothering that man. What is wrong? Why?
I was going to ask,
You think he's bothering me?
No, I think you're bothering him.
He's bothering me.
How?
No. You need to have sympathy. Is he on this show right now? No. He's sitting over at dinner having a cocktail. I am here working with my friends in Dallas.
I don't think. Look, I see what you're trying to do there, and it's gonna work here. But
Yes,
I want you to know that I see what you're doing. I see the deflection that you just did.
By the way, wait, can I ask y'all a question? Totally off topic of the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Because I'm talking to like our NBA experts, right? So like when KD went over to the Suns, he said that was the complete, like you guys had a full balloon in Dallas with Kyrie, and that balloon popped as soon as KD went over to the Suns. Is that the feeling in Dallas right now?
Not quite, oddly enough.
Yeah, I think they're happy that Kyrie is a part of the Mavericks, and obviously the Suns did what they did, but the Mavericks, look, they're happy that the Mavericks just did something, and they happen to take a chance on that guy.
You know, if the first game for Kyrie did not look as good as it did, where you go and you beat the Clippers without Luka Doncic, maybe you end up in a place where that is the case. The balloon is popped. People seem very happy with the possibilities that currently exist. Maybe in a week.
And they were a big underdog in that game.
Yeah, maybe in a week we talk and it's a little bit different. But right now, everybody seems to still be on the hopium.
That was crazy, though.
No, it
that
was.
Trade going down. Like at midnight, I woke up at 3 a.m. I was like, what the heck is happening? But I feel the same way about Kyrie. So that's why we love NBA drama on top of the Super Bowl drama.
That's right. So what did we take you away from, Amanda, that made you so damn late for our interview?
I was at a dinner. I told you to let me know, and then I didn't have cell service. So that was it.
Well, please.
I don't know why I have terrible cell service in Arizona.
It's probably because, never mind. Anyways, we appreciate you taking a little time, go and eat dinner and enjoy yourself.
Thank you, Amanda.
All right, good. It was nice to talk to you guys. I miss you guys. I'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely.
There she goes, Amanda Guerra of CBS Sports HQ. Good enough to join us here via the Diamond Factory hotline. Let's go to break real quick. We'll let you know the breaking news when it comes to your Dallas Cowboys. Not one, but two Pro Football Hall of Famers headed to Canton. We'll let you know who they are next on 105.3 The Fan.
Coming up in the next G-Bag Nation, we got a Football Friday live from Radio Row. Zach and Julie Ertz are going to join you at 4:15 and Mina Kimes at 5 o'clock. Nation 2 to 7, The Fan.
having a blast bringing you one of our biggest tune-in weeks of the year. Rally House presents our coverage from Radio Row. Check out our recap videos on 1053thefan.com or on YouTube and our podcasts on our site or the Odyssey app. It's Radio Row Week, all week from Phoenix. Presented by Rally House, Window Nation, and A Number One Air. Right here on The Fan.
Back here on the Get Right, Rebecca KG on 105.3 The Fan. Kevin Gray, Reginald Atatula.
Yo.
Larry Flores on the down for here. Let's go, Larry, inside the gray area here on the Get Right. Some breaking news here on 105.3 The Fan. Breaking news on 105.3 The Fan is presented by BetQL. Smarter bets start with BetQL. Download the BetQL app or visit BetQL.com today. The Cowboys are sending 2 new members into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. DeMarcus Ware and Chuck Howley are part of the class of 2023 for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I'll get to the rest of those members in just a moment. Yes, that does mean Darren Woodson, unfortunately, did not make the Pro Football Hall of Fame in his first year as a finalist after 15 years of candidacy. And also, breaking news, the NFL's Walter Payton Man of the Year award winner is none other than Rain Dakota Prescott.
The most prestigious award the NFL has to give.
That is what the NFL tells us, that the Walter Payton and
Why are they doing this? Why?
I will say in all seriousness, no.
No, I mean, it matters.
Yes, it very much. And the man that it's named after is one of the, not just one of the greatest players to ever play the game, but one of the true gentlemen of the game as well, and someone who represented the game as well as anyone. And what that award stands for means a lot for people in the league. And now, Dak Prescott is the 2023 winner of the NFL's Walter Payton Man of the Year award. Of course, his Faith, Fight, and Finish foundation, his advocacy when it comes to mental health, and all of the things that he has done over the course of the last year has put him in that spotlight. And now he has been rewarded with that prestigious award in the National Football League.
And speaking of victory laps, I mean, you did try to tell me. He was like, yo, he's going to win this.
It just, I don't know. I just had you think about all the things that he's been through, the advocacy that he's done for a lot of different things within the community. It just felt like the visibility of which that was brought to light was something that would lend itself to this being the outcome. And that's exactly what has happened tonight. So again,
right, let's go back to your passion here, though, because there was one thing that got you charged up in the break, and it wasn't that Dak won this award.
Which we just found out, by the way.
That's fair.
With Dak Prescott. But the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2023 includes Don Coryell, Ken Riley, Joe Klecko, Chuck Howley, DeMarcus Ware, Zach Thomas, Joe Thomas, Darrelle Revis, and Rondé Barber.
Wasn't Joe Thomas the first NFL O-lineman? Never mind. I'll talk about that joke with Kevin. Don't worry about it. Haglin, that is.
So congratulations to those men who have made the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Darren Woodson being left out.
All right.
Of this class is kind of wild. And okay, Rondé Barber, as Reg was.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna come back in this. Yeah, no, I saw Rondé Barber and I was like, yeah, I mean, cool that Rondé. Wait, did I misremember Rondé, or do I? Because like again, in all honesty, we all have like an age where we realized that we were like fully became aware and really started like taking in sports at a higher level. Like I would watch football at that time, but I don't think I was like fully tapped in at the very start of his career. So I was like, am I just not fully remembering Rondé Barber? And I went and looked at it, and yeah, 3-time All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowler, and he was on the All-Decades team. That'll usually get you in. So I was like, yeah, I guess. But then when you could compare that to Darren Woodson, who was a 3-time All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowler, he did not make an All-Decades team, but he obviously won the 3 championships with the Cowboys. It's like, oh man, this is somewhat close, and you would think that, you know, the star would do something, and also like the rings would do something for that man. And yet still, yet and again, he is left on the other side. not in the Hall of Fame, not appreciated on that level for his game.
Woodson's the all-time leading tackler in Cowboys history. As you mentioned, multi-time Pro Bowler. In fact, just to list it down for you, he's a 5-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro, 3-time Super Bowl champion, all-time leader, and I believe in Cowboys history in terms of interceptions as well. Or had 26 career interceptions, including the playoffs. And really changed the way that the safety position was played. And you look at how the safety position is played today, it changed because of how Darren Woodson played it in the early to mid 90s. Was a hybrid linebacker, safety, could play downhill, could play in coverage. Darren Woodson is an all-time football player and should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But a couple of ones that did, had me curious was Ronde Barber had a hell of a career. I don't think going ahead of Darren Woodson was the move there. And the other one for me, Zach Thomas. Now, Zach Thomas, I thought was a very, very good linebacker.
You about to slander somebody?
No, I'm not slandering him. I'm just saying.
5-time All-Pro. 7-time Pro Bowler.
Okay.
All-Decades team.
I guess I am about to slander him a little bit. A little overrated. That is Kevin Gray Jr. You can find him on Twitter at Kevin Gray Sports. Zach Thomas was a hell of a football player, but I thought in a lot of ways, like Urlacher was really good. He was really, really good as well.
Urlacher is the man that I think about when I think about the middle linebacker position.
As like the all-time best at it?
He is just if you say middle linebacker, that is the image that comes to mind.
Not Ray Lewis?
No. Oddly enough.
Oh, no. Wow. Okay.
I don't understand why that is, because Ray Lewis obviously a whole nother level of incredible. Urlacher's the one that comes to mind. And I say that just to point out like how singular he is in my mind. Obviously still understanding that there probably are a few better middle linebackers. But I don't. And you know what? I do wonder how many people Zach Thomas is somewhat similar. Is what pops in their mind. But yeah, from the 214, someone else said Zach Thomas over Woodson.
Yeah, that don't fly with me.
As much as you can do some of the accolade counting, Zach Thomas does have a lot more of this All-Pro. Where I like using All-Pro because that means for a given year you are considered a top 2 at your position, or obviously for certain positions there'll be a few more. But you were considered in the very top
5-time first team All-Pro?
5-time All-Pro altogether. But I'm okay with counting that because again, I don't necessarily need you to be the single best at your position every year. But if you are in that top 2-3 range or whatever every year or in those years, I think that matters, right? Because that's what we're talking about in the Hall of Fame. Were you one of the greatest at your position for a significant period of time? And when we start getting a 5-time All-Pro.
Okay, so all 5 of those were first-team All-Pros for him.
No, he was a second-team All-Pro in one of those, or 2 of those, actually, I think.
Oh, okay, because I'm looking at Pro Football Reference here, and I see he's got first-team All-Pro 5 different times. In fact, 98, 99, then 02, 03, and then again in 2006. But again, ahead of Darren Woodson, I don't think necessarily needs to be the case from the 903. Thomas slightly over, but from 972. Yeah, agreed. Zach Thomas overrated. I don't know, man. It's tough. And I know the voting and the criteria for this is very, very difficult.
I think what's holding him back is not being on the all-decades team.
I mean,
and it's unfair, clearly.
Yeah.
But it seems like the Hall of Famers seem to care a good amount about that. I think Kevin Haglin, who we'll talk with shortly, will talk about that. He frequently brings that up. But yeah, I think that's what's holding it back. And unfortunately, you can't go and remedy that. But you would hope that by some point, somebody would have looked up and been like, "Hey, man, we really not putting Darren Woodson in here?"
Yeah.
Apparently, this is another year where that's going to happen. Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. But DeMarcus Ware and also Chuck Howley, your Cowboys that are going to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Again, the class of 2023, Ronde Barber, Darrelle Revis, Joe Thomas, Zach Thomas, DeMarcus Ware, Chuck Howley, Joe Klecko, Ken Riley, and Don Coryell. And Dak Prescott is your NFL's Walter Payton Man of the Year winner for 20 22. So congratulations to the Dallas Cowboys quarterback. Well deserving of that award. Coming up next here on the Get Right with Reggie KG on 105.3 The Fan. Kevin Haglin, the KNC Masterpiece, joins us right here on 105.3 The Fan.
You can wait 24 hours. Or you can find out Cowboys and NFL insider info immediately by listening to Super Bowl winning scout Brian Broaddus, part of the G-Bag Nation. Afternoons 2 to 7, right here on The Fan and our Odyssey app. The Fan.
Yes, indeed. It is the Get Right with Reggie KG on 105.3 The Fan. Reginald Attitude. Kevin Gray Jr. is somewhere else in this building. Not in the studio, though. I don't know what he's up to. We appreciate you rocking with us on 105.3 The Fan, the Odyssey app, twitch.tv/DallasFanCam, YouTube, 105.3 The Fan on YouTube. We appreciate it. However you're listening, wherever you're listening, appreciate you making us a part of your evening. And also shout out to our guests that have joined us on this program. We thank you to Amanda Guerra, CBS Sports. Appreciate Nick Angstadt, the homie from Locked On Mavs, helping us talk everything Mavs at the trade deadline. And I guess we should also thank Jonah Heim and Jared Sandler for Rangers Hot Stove. I do all of that to get me some time to get Kevin Gray Jr. back in front of a microphone.
Had to handle some business. We're all good. All good to go. But yeah, the NFL honors tonight as well. A big night in the National Football League capped off by the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2023 being announced. And also Dak Prescott winning the NFL's Walter Payton Man of the Year Award for 2022. So congratulations to him. Congratulations to DeMarcus Ware and Chuck Howley.
And shame on the Hall of Fame for not putting Darren Woodson in. And to talk about these things and more live from the greater Phoenix area, our friend and the K in the KNC Masterpiece, Kevin Haglin. Kevin, go.
Seriously, what the hell do we have to do to get Darren Woodson in the Hall of Fame? What is happening?
So we need to go in. You know how like in the aughts, in like a sitcom, you'd have somebody break into a building, like usually like a coming of age type sitcom. You'd have like a kid break into the building and change the grade on their grade so that they didn't get in trouble. We need to go into like the Hall of Fame and somehow add Darren Woodson into an all-decade team so that they can get him in. Because that's what I've decided that must be why they're holding him in. Because otherwise, then I have to assume that they're just being jerks.
Okay, so that team starts with Alec and Joey, right? Like they look like they could be in a coming of age movie, don't they?
Yes, they look like they have been in many a coming of age movie, in fact.
So I'm really disappointed, y'all, because I thought we had like tracked down and investigated and figured out that Darren Woodson had made the Hall of Fame. So here's how it goes. We actually had Rondé Barber on the show today, and then we had Darren Woodson on the show yesterday, and Darren Woodson wasn't even scheduled. He just saw us out and was like, heck yeah, I'll be on the show. So we're talking with Darren Woodson about the Hall of Fame and all that stuff. And then Tyler Klutz, former Cowboy, comes up right as we're finishing the interview, and he goes, oh, did you tell him the big news? Good news, right? And we're kind of like, hold on. Did Tyler Klutz just tell us that Darren Woodson's in the Hall of Fame? So that was the beginning of the investigation, which clearly was incorrect. And then today, when we had Rondé Barber on, I asked him point blank, I said, do you or do you not already know if you have made the Hall of Fame? And he looked at me and smiled and goes, I do not believe I am at liberty to share that information. Which of course led me to believe that he knew, right? Because if you didn't know, wouldn't you just go like, no? And so we made some jokes and everything, and he brought over some chicken, which was amazing.
That's a great gift.
And then Emmett Smith also brought us tequila as a side note. And we were like, hey, thanks for the chicken. Hope the rest of your day goes really well. And he goes, maybe goes golden. I was like, oh. And he goes, and he just shrugged his shoulders. And so I thought, okay, it feels like Rondé Barber knows one way or another. So does that mean Tyler Klutz knew one way or another? Well, clearly Rondé Barber got in, which, little brag, that means we have 5 Hall of Famers on the show today. But I'm kind of pissed that Darren Woodson didn't make it. And I know it's his first year as a finalist, but you just look at him versus Rondé Barber, and the resumes are pretty similar.
Yeah, this one's tough for me, Kevin, because Rondé Barber had a terrific career, and I know he played a different position as a corner. Okay, whatever. Zach Thomas, I know Mike Bassett, he'll jump all over me because I know he loves his Red Raiders. Zach Thomas was a really good linebacker for a long time. I thought it a little overrated in my personal book, but that's just me. But at the same time, Woodson's credentials more than enough to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I mean, even if you take away the Super Bowl championships, multi-time All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowl, all-time leading tackler in Cowboys history. I mean, you can go on and on and on, change the way the safety position was played. I'm not sure what else is needed for him to be considered a Pro Football Hall of Famer at this juncture.
I think you make great points, and I think Reggie hit the bottom line at the very beginning of this. I know we talk about this a lot on the show. I know it drives people crazy. We're like, all-decade team, and people are like, what are you guys bringing that up so much? Because we did this like exhaustive study of who makes the Hall of Fame, and that is the difference. And I know people will holler back to the 70s, and I don't know what the hell happened there with Cliff Harris and Drew Pearson, but like traditionally,
Drew Pearson was the last one of that 70s decade team to make it to the Hall of Fame.
Which is obviously madness, and I bet Chuck Howley's kind of sitting around. He's like, "Hey, you know what? I got kind of a beef too, and I see what he's saying." But like that is your ticket to get into the Hall of Fame, and Rondé Barber has that bullet point on his resume, whereas Darren Woodson did not. I'm just astonished how the Cowboys won all these Super Bowls if they didn't have any good players. You know, like people focus on Emmett, and we had Emmett Smith on the show today, and he was like, there is too much talk about me, Troy, and Urban at the expense of the rest of the team. And, like, you think about some of the other people in the Hall of Fame, Charles Haley, Deion Sanders. Like, I hear you on that, and they're very worthy Hall of Famers. But those guys weren't, like, Cowboys for the bulk of their career. Hell, Deion wasn't even there for but the last Super Bowl. And like we have one of the greatest offensive lines of all time. Well, Larry Allen's in the Hall of Fame. He was only starting for that last Super Bowl as well. So I don't know what they thought made this team so great that they won Super Bowls in 3 out of 4 years. But the Hall of Fame representation is absurd, and Darren Woodson's my like flash point on that.
By the way, I wanted to make sure we said this because I think I'll forget it later. So Patrick Mahomes won the NFL's MVP. That's not the important part.
Surprised?
I mean, no, that's not the important part.
Okay.
So he obviously ran away with the award. The voting has been released for the award itself.
Yes.
Runaway winner.
Yes.
But there was one name on the ballot that got a vote that had people curious to who this particular person was. Bill's assistant athletic trainer, Denny Kellington, performed the life-saving CPR on Damar Hamlin on the field. He ended up receiving a 5th place vote for the NFL's MVP award as a sign of respect and appreciation for him. The vote came from ESPN's Susie Kolber.
Okay,
that's pretty
cool. Let me apologize for booing. I thought you were going to say that a person from the Bills gave Josh Allen that 1st place vote. So let me apologize. I very much support that vote. That's true. I thought you were going to be like, someone from the Bills voted for Josh Allen. I thought, how can that even be the case? But no, that's very worthy. And I saw the speech, and it's just like, that's all. It sucks that you had to get to that point because of an awful thing, but it's all very heartwarming now.
By the way, Josh Allen received 1 1st place vote.
Just as many as he's supposed to get. All right, so Kevin, what's been the most fun thing on Radio Row thus far on the week for you?
Okay, it actually might have been today because although last night when we got dinner and every single person not only received but finished their dinner before mine arrived.
Wow.
That was a little humbling. And
what did you do?
Because, okay, I ordered fried chicken, and they said, hey, the fried chicken takes about like 15 to 20 minutes. Got it. No problem. Of the other 9 people that were there, DJ, who's sitting right across from me, also ordered fried chicken. His food got there at the same time as everybody else's. And I thought, I guess mine is coming. And like, I'm not kidding you. Everybody finished their food. And then we asked, and the guy went back to the kitchen, and he goes, oh, yeah. No, they put your order in. They're just finishing up making it right now. My ass. They forgot it, and then they rebooted the order. If nobody else had got fried chicken, then I've been like, well, that's just the breaks. They warned me it was going to take longer. But if it's not that, because it was a little humbling, is today we had on Tony Dorsett and Earl Campbell at the same time. But in addition to talking to them, which was awesome, Earl Campbell got the most savage burn ever off on me. And I told him, hey, I didn't want to say it before the interview, but like I went to A&M. And he goes, oh, I love A&M. I thought, okay, we might be best friends. And then he goes, if it wasn't for me rushing for 176 yards against A&M, I might not have won the Heisman Trophy.
Wow.
I was just crushed by that. And I just thought that was an amazing burn. But the best part of it, honestly, was if you're out there, you see all kinds of different people and stuff, is the PR person for Earl Campbell and Tony Dorsett asked us to do a picture with him and with them. And of course you're like, sure, of course. Is like a person or two wearing Cowboys jerseys. I don't know what they were doing there. Kind of photobombed us, and the person who taken the picture just put the camera down. Come on, guys. And I'm almost positive the other PR person told them to F off. And it was amazing. I thought, that is too high of a level of anger for what just happened. We can still do the photo. Everything's okay. But they were really mad. They go, come on, man. What are you doing? And
I imagine that Earl Campbell and Tony Dorsett aren't dudes that you waste their time. At least not without consequences.
That's true. But at first I didn't know that there was somebody behind us. And I thought, what is he so mad about? And then I saw the person who, he looked like he could have been like a roadie for an 80s band that's still tour. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I hope that paints the picture for you. But
Very
yeah,
well,
that
in
was
fact.
super fun. And you just get access to the most amazing people. Maybe my other favorite moment was I freaked out in a commercial break because I saw Joe Montana walk right by me.
Oh, did you tell him that you think he's the greatest?
No, because he was I said right by me. He was about 30 feet away.
So why didn't you go find him?
Okay, because he had, some people just kind of walk around. Other people have giant teams of handlers with them. And I could not get to Joe Montana in time because y'all know your commercial breaks. It's not the longest time in the world.
Yeah,
to
but
go
you
get
got
something
you got two coworkers. They got it.
They could, or they could live play-by-play me chasing down Joe Montana, which honestly could have been pretty entertaining.
That would have been pretty epic, actually.
You know what? In retrospect, I think you guys are right. Now I realize I made a mistake, but both Mike and Corey said they saw Joe Montana during the Emmitt Smith interview, and I think it would have been really poor form by me if Emmitt's talking and I go, oh my God, it's Joe Montana. So I feel like that would have been bad for me. So that was pretty cool. And Reggie, I saw one of your favorites, since it's your show, your territory, one of your favorite wrestlers.
That's right.
Yesterday in Seth Rollins, that I was really excited about as well. So dude, it's been a party out here.
So jealous you saw Seth freaking Rollins.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I'm glad that you guys are enjoying yourself. Did you go to the media party yourself, or did you abstain?
Okay, let me ask you this: What do you think I went to the media party?
No, I already know you didn't, but I feel like I needed the larger audience to find out.
Yeah, I just wanted to see if you didn't know, and you're like, oh yeah, no chance. And you know what I think I made the mistake of? I love Mike to death. I think I listened to him too much on this one because he goes, oh, yeah, last media party here sucked. It was in a parking lot. And then when we find out the media party's in that same spot, and he didn't say it was going to suck, but I just kept remembering what he said last time. He goes, yeah, they throw up a tent or some crap, and it was no good. They said this one was better, but I just was like, I'm probably going to go skip it.
All right, so have you had, before we let you go, have you had any opportunity to schmooze? I can never pinpoint if you're a schmoozer or not, Hagee. I never recall. Did you have any opportunity to schmooze if you indeed wanted to?
Okay, there's still a chance that we're going to be on Kay Adams' show in the morning.
Oh, yeah, make that happen. Yep.
Okay.
Because, we built it up. We're all Team Corey on this one, and we pushed the interview over to him because he loves him some Kay Adams.
Yeah, got him a little ISO going.
He was nervous as hell trying to talk to Kay.
For sure. I felt like a good point guard there. I helped facilitate it, and I was like, I guess I'm going to pick nobody, and I'll just stand over here. But it went really well, and we introduced her to the segment, Should I Eat It? And she goes, man, that's exactly the kind of stuff I like talking about. And then off air, she said, you guys should come on my show. So that's probably the closest to really schmoozing.
Not to cut you off here, but percent chance that she was being serious or percent chance she was just being nice?
Oh, no. I'm not kidding. I think it was 75 to 80% that she was being serious because she seemed really enamored by the nonsense segments we were pointing out. And also, I think I won her over when I showed her like the screenshot from a movie trailer. She was talking about movies she likes.
Oh, yes.
And I told her, I was like, they're making a Winnie the Pooh horror movie. And she goes, that's not real. So, of course, I made sure to look up the trailer and show it to her. She looked shocked and appalled that that was a real movie. But I think at that moment, she also realized, okay, these guys are into the type of nonsense and shenanigans that I am.
That's right. Also, I watched the video of this interview. So as you were recounting some of this, I'm just, recalling and nodding along. I also, knowing you so well, as we have worked together for a few years now, when she mentioned the bears, I could see in your eyes cocaine bear. I could see it.
Of course.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm that was in fact the thought that flashed through your head as soon as she said bears.
Everybody's got the thing that, like, if something is even tangentially associated to what they said, to what you think about, you're going to bring it up. And I'm a big advocate for bringing up cocaine bear for no apparent reason.
I don't know how to end it from there, so we'll just end it. Kevin Haglin.
That's what we do.
No, I'll ask you this real quick before you go. Obviously, you're headed home tomorrow. Anything that you felt like was, unsaid or not done yet that you want to make
what are you
sure
gonna make happen tomorrow?
Before you leave Arizona?
So I'm still on the hunt and prayer that Joe Montana comes back.
Sure.
And if that happens, I'm going to go after him. I probably won't go to the NFL shop to buy a $50 Super Bowl hat. That's for real.
Nasty.
That Super Bowl hat is $50. And the other thing that went unsaid that I was sad about is I didn't realize that I probably could have just hung around and maybe changed clothes and like tried to crash the NFL honors, because it was like right freaking there. So I'm kind of bummed that I didn't get in the mix to try to watch the NFL honors in person.
All right. Well, y'all have a fantastic time tomorrow. Any guests that we need to make sure that we timestamp for you and the KNC Masterpiece?
So we're going to try to just grab guests on the fly. Tomorrow's actually the lightest guest day we've had, which I think gives us a little bit more freedom to have some of our fun and nonsense, and we might just go ahead and do a wireless segment. Maybe that's just how we'll get some guests. If I see Seth Rollins, I'll just run off the table and go talk to him while we're walking down the hall.
Now I'm crossing my fingers. I am praying for wireless Kevin meeting Joe Montana.
And Seth freaking Rollins.
I would be more nervous than Corey was with Kay Adams. By the way, Corey did a great job with her. He really did.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to listening to all of you tomorrow, and safe travels back to Dallas. Kevin Haglin, the KSC Masterpiece, going to have to join us here on the Get Right. Kev, appreciate it, man.
See you guys later. Thanks for having me on.
There he goes. Kevin Haglin of the KNC Masterpiece. I'm sorry, the KMC Masterpiece.
Okay. Either way. You know what we're talking about.
You know exactly what we're talking about.
So,
coming up next on the Get Right.
Oh, I guess I'm supposed to do this or that. I'm probably going to tell you.
Come on, Reg!
I'll tell you about what happened to me before the show. We'll do that next on 105 Through the Fan.
Blasting out 100,000 watts of FM sports talk power and streaming 24/7 on the Odyssey app. This is DFW Sports Station 105.3 The Fan.
There is a reason you need a special license to drive a big truck. So companies that hire drivers and put them in a big truck should be held accountable for what happens when one hurts you. Frankly, you need Frankel and Frankel. The consultation, it's always free. Visit truckwreck.com.
So get right with Reggie KG on 105.3 The Fan. Kevin Gray, Reginald Atatula, Larry Flores holding it down for you. Really appreciate Kevin Haglin of the KNC Masterpiece for joining us last segment via the Diamond Factory Hotline live in Arizona as Radio Row week concludes tomorrow with Sean and RJ, KNC Masterpiece, and the G-Bag Nation as Super Bowl 57 is right around the corner. You can find us on Twitter at Kevin Gray Sports and at Reg Atatula. But Larry, I think right now it's time for this.
We're doing this or that, Larry. It's okay. It's all right. To be fair, I'm not even starting with this or that, if we're going to be completely honest. So this will get Larry a little bit more time. What's happening, fellas?
Yo.
That's not what you teased, by the way. I'm just saying. Right?
I mean, kind of, but it's because what we have here is a little bit of story time.
Larry's like, get me off the hook here, okay?
I'm just saying.
I wasn't accusing you of nothing, Larry.
That's not what going through his mind.
But he had that look of disappointment on his face.
He's like, please get me off the hook right now.
Whenever he threw it to me, that Reggie gives, that look of disappointment, and I felt it.
I just always look disappointed in everybody. You should know that. No, jokes aside, today was a weird one. Obviously, we had a lot of fun today with the NBA trade deadline, and I was chilling in the house. I knew that we had the show planned, so I was, sitting back, relaxing, maxing, all cool, shooting some b-ball outside from school, all that. And then I got in my car to drive to work. And as I was turning the first corner to get on my drive, I heard,
oh no.
And I was like, oh damn, that is a tire that has blown. So I went ahead and hit that Yui, took it back to the parking lot, and I parked and I changed my tire. All right. So I did all that and I put on the spare tire. This is the first time I've used my spare tire. So I have a relatively new car and it had a donut in it and not a spare, like a full spare tire. So a donut you can only really use for like 30 miles or whatever. Spare tire, I imagine I can rock a little bit more. So I ended up getting this spare tire. And I had to buy an extra wheel for it because obviously it's not going to match the wheels that I have on my car, stock. But, I got that and it had separate lug nuts and I was like, that's fine. Whenever I need to deal with that, I'll deal with that. Today was the day I needed to deal with it. Went through the, tire changing. That went well largely until I put it onto the new wheel, the spare tire onto the car. Started trying to tighten the lug nuts and realized that my, what is it? The nut fastener or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Mark that. Thank you.
I don't know what to call it. Right. You can mark it. That's fine. It'd be like that sometimes.
That's cool.
It did not fasten the lug nuts. So I was like, oh man, this is tough because if you try and fasten them by hand, what's going to happen is they're not tight enough. When the car gets going, the vibrations of the car are going to loosen them things up. So I tried and I was like, all right, I just need to get because I don't live that far from the studio. I was like, I just need to get the few miles to the studio to make this work. Don't even got to go on the highway. I start driving along. I start feeling that shake.
Oh no.
I was like, let me park. These things are loose. Start trying to tighten them. I was like, oh man, this is going to be tough. Start driving again. Got to pull over at park.
Oh man.
And I was like, oh man. So I done already, I left the house.
Yeah.
At a decent time if I was just driving. Not if I needed to do a whole bunch of lug wrench. Thank you, Opie World. Not if I need to do a whole bunch of auto mechanics, right? So I done stopped 2 times. Tire iron. Thank you. All these folks coming with the right words. I
versus
apologize.
what you called it.
I don't got the answers. I don't have all the answers.
It's okay. It's just the way that you said it was. Yeah.
I tried to say what I had in my brain to help. But no, at that point, I had to make a decision. Do I keep trying to drive in pseudo traffic while also having this tire wobbly for the rest of the half of my drive? Or do I make the walk that I made before? And I was like, look, there's enough traffic. This car, I'm not going to put, this nice car that I'm still paying on at risk. And I'm not going to put myself at risk. of being stranded and then having to do with all that deal. I'll park it and I'll walk. And I start my walk. I started my walk and I hit the Google Maps to see how long the walk would be. And this was 6:30. The show starts at 7. And the Google Maps said that you got 40 minutes of a walk. And I was like, that's not going to work. So I let you guys know, hey, I'm going to be running late. And you know what I did? I started running. And I started running towards the studio. And I guess this or that, number one, you would also start running in this situation if you were me. Kevin Gray, this and that.
Hell to the nah. That. Let me tell you something, Reg. You ain't got to run nowhere near this studio, okay? If it's between you having to take yourself back to your car and waiting or needing to just go back home, don't worry about it. We got you. We would have took care of you.
I'm not going to make y'all do a one-man show.
You're not hearing me. Take your ass back to the car, to the house. You don't have to run to these studios, okay? It's not that serious.
Somebody said Uber. Let me tell you, that Uber was way higher than I needed to pay.
Now, that's what I suggested to him, but then when he told me how much it cost to get from the distance to where he was to here, yeah.
I'm talking about 2 miles, man.
Probably still wouldn't have ran here, but
it was a 2 mile distance, and it would have cost like a couple of meals worth of money. And I was like, yeah, we're not doing that.
Yeah, this good decision made. Wouldn't have ran here. That.
Someone said I wouldn't have started running because I'm a very fast walker. So if it says 30, I'm gonna do it in 20.
Oh, okay.
All right. Yeah, maybe. Well, don't give me too many props. 469. I did not run the entire way. I ran maybe about a mile and a third. And Jared Sandler
big
came
old
and picked
bag
me
of
up.
yours.
That's
You started
right.
running. Look here,
Larry. First of all, I'm going to say this part, but obviously I'm going to offer you the opportunity to get in on this or this or that. Larry obviously has served. Thank you for your service. Lucius Alexander has served, right? Thank him for his service. I let them know that if I ever thought I could have been in the military, which I didn't, I knew for sure that I couldn't today, because that running today with a backpack on my back, I was like, oh, y'all was doing something different over there, weren't y'all?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Reggie, this one is too easy. Just look at me.
I'm looking.
You know, there's times I can't buy my keys and I think about.
You're like, I don't need that job. I don't need that job.
And I have to think twice. We both know this, right? My ID card, I still don't know where that's at. You know, I don't want to have to pay the money to get another ID card to be able to come in here. There's times that I've thought, you know what, I don't know where that's at. And I'm going to just send the text. And
that the job's over?
Yeah.
It's been nice. It's been a good run.
It's been a good run. It's been 7 years. And I'm going to end it on not being able to find my ID card or my keys. But yeah, no, it absolutely not. That would have not even crossed my mind.
I love this one from the 214. I would have called an Uber to take me back home.
I respect it. I respect it.
That's elite text in 214. That's an elite text.
Yeah, I didn't want to let down my teammates. You know what I was most upset about? It wasn't the prospect of running. It wasn't the idea that I'm leaving my car somewhere. It's this fly ass shirt I got on was gonna get sweaty. That was my first thought. I was like, damn, I'm gonna get sweaty in this fly shirt. That's unfortunate. That's how I am. Let's get into actual this or that here shortly.
No, that's a great way to start.
Thank you, everybody, for appreciating. I don't want to call it a terrible, no good, very bad day, because it was still very fun, all things considered.
Yeah.
Just, had one little hiccup, turned it into two, but we made it work, because that's what we do. Speaking of, the NBA trade deadline, right, went down today. All the fun, all the jokes, and I'm here to tell you, gentlemen, that, trade deadline day in the NBA is the best, simply transactional day in sports.
Of the four major sports?
Yes.
Yeah.
KG, this or that.
This, for sure. The NFL is close.
With what?
Their NFL free agency, kind of frenzy deal, whatever they do. But the NBA trade deadline, especially on days like this, yeah, man, it doesn't get wilder than NBA trade deadline day, because this was nuts.
I'm going to agree this, just because you see a lot more. I know this happens every now and then in baseball, but in basketball, you always see that third team. right? That third
Oh,
team.
it's like, we know what the deal is, and then the third team pops in out of nowhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like with the Mavs situation, right? And how, supposedly Toronto was trying to get in on the deal, or somebody else was trying to get on the deal after the terms were originally agreed to and stuff like that. I think that makes it pretty fascinating.
I'm surprised that neither of you brought up the NFL draft day one. Right?
No.
You would still take any NBA trade, because this is the thing also. This was a particularly active trade deadline.
Right.
What happens when you get some of the less active ones?
But you usually still get a fairly big one. The NFL, you said NFL draft day one?
Yeah, because I'm single day.
See, but NFL insiders have spoiled that pretty good these days.
Okay.
Like, we usually know the first 2 to 3 picks before they're actually made, especially the number 1 overall pick. We usually find that out, within a day or so of the draft. It's like, yeah, this is going to be the consensus. This is who's going to be at number 1. The NBA trade deadline, you have no idea.
Yeah, the first, usually the first, maybe not 5 through 10, but the first 5 picks.
You kind of know.
You kind of know where they're going to go. And every now and then you have that one random team that jumps up there. But, if they are going to jump up there, you kind of already have an idea of who they're jumping up there for, right? It's usually the quarterback or whatnot, or the Julio Jones that one year. But,
yeah,
it doesn't. To me, it's not as surprising.
In fact, I would say NBA day one of free agency is slightly better than NFL day one of free agency, because ain't nothing like a Woj bomb or Shams just lighting the notifications up on day one of free agency in the NBA, because they stay going at it. By the way, it was 11-10 Woj over Shams.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I want to make sure I corrected myself from earlier.
Fantastic. Someone said now I got to get the 4-way lug nut iron or whatever. I might have to look into that. Let's see, what else do we see? Running with the bag is hard, so if you did that major props, I did for about a mile and a third is what I'm guessing. I'll actually find out what it is later today. Somebody said that's how I know Reggie's African. We hate spending money. Hey man, there's that, and there's also can't spend what you didn't got. You know what I mean? Like, you got to be real careful around these parts. But yes, somebody said the baseball trade deadline. Yeah, MLB trade deadline is good because every year you got buyers and sellers, and there's somebody getting a rental, or there's always going to be action. And whereas the NBA trade deadline, you might not always get a lot of action, or NBA rather. MLB, it feels like every year you're gonna get something going on the hot stove. Anyways, that's it for that.
I was gonna say left my mind. It's okay.
I got a lot of steps in today.
I'm just glad you didn't you stopped running and called one of us to.
Well, I texted, and then I was running up until he came and picked me up. So, yeah, no, that was. I've done that walk many times, actually. There was a time when I had my previous car where it was in the shop, and then the shop that I happened to choose took a little longer than they should have. So the rental car had to be given back, and I just decided I'm gonna walk. It's not that far to the crib. I was just gonna walk here, walk back, just plan ahead. Really, the bad thing about this was that I did not have a lot of time. If I had more time, I'd have just strolled it and had a nice, because it's not 100 outside that somebody said earlier.
I also remember another car situation a while back, Reggie. I'm not sure if you remember, but it's back whenever I was working the overnights and you were working the late evenings, and me and Reggie would do this whole thing where he would leave, be on a Friday night. I'd take over, work the entire night. And Reggie would pop right back in that next morning to do Saturday morning. And so I think there was another car situation that you had, and you were like, well, I guess I'm just going to crash here. And I'm like, I don't know if you remember. I was like, well, you're coming back up here in the morning. Just take my car. Head back to the crib.
I do remember that. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
That was very nice of you. That was an incredible gesture.
Yeah, because I was like, I could sit here and watch Reggie sleep on the couch right here in front of me, but I'm going to be here all night anyway. So
Larry was just like, nah, you need to go home and
that's my couch.
Take a shower. Just do that. Yeah. Go do that there. Which I appreciate, because I just operate so much better when I'm able to actually wake up and take a shower. So you are a very kind man for doing that. Yes. So yeah, that was my day.
Coming up next on the Get Right with Reggie KG, it's the final call, and could the Mavericks see the return of one of their favorites?
Oh,
next on 105 through the Fan.
Coming up Friday morning on Sean and RJ, our final show from Radio Row, our final Adam Sandler ticket giveaway. We'll have Brandon Marshall, Sean Alexander, and Ron Jaworski. It's a Football Friday morning from Phoenix on The Fan.
Get the top stories, exclusive podcasts, video content, and much more 24/7 at 1053thefan.com.
Final time here on the Get Right. Reggie KG on 105.3 The Fan. Kevin Gray, Reginald Atatula, Larry Flores holding down for you here. Really appreciate all of you who joined us on our show this evening. Want to thank Nick Angstadt of Locked On Mavs, Amanda Guerra of CBS Sports HQ, and Kevin Haglin of the KNC Masterpiece, all for joining us via the Diamond Factory hotline. If you missed any portion of our show, you can hit the rewind button on the Odyssey app, or you can go to the Get Right podcast page on 1053thefan.com to listen to any segment on demand for our show. Again, programming note for us tomorrow, we will be on at around 5:30 or so as the fellas from the G-Bag Nation start to head back from Arizona. So,
I imagine that the morning show, Sean, RJ, and Bobby, and then also KNC will probably already be on their way, if not already back in the Metroplex by that time. So, yeah, it'd be cool.
So myself, Reginald Atatula, and Chris Arnold, the three-time Hall of Famer, will hang out with you until 9 o'clock tomorrow before we give way to kickoff with Boomer and Boomer Valenti. Boomer Esiason and Mike Valenti. Really cool night for NFL honors. Patrick Mahomes is now a two-time league MVP. Patrick Mahomes, the runaway winner of the NFL's MVP.
Wait, what did you say during the show earlier during one of them breaks about Patrick Mahomes?
If his career ended today, he is unequivocally a Pro Football Hall of Famer. If his career ended right now.
Did you say first ballot then, though?
Yes. He's already now a two-time league MVP, will be having played in 3 Super Bowls, already won a Super Bowl MVP, already a 3-time first-team All-Pro, 5 Pro Bowlers, 2-time passing touchdown leader, and set the NFL record for total yards in a season. That's that's first ballot resume already.
I think that since we're in
his first 5 years, he's been a full-time starter for 5 years. That's what he's done his first 5 years in the NFL and played in 5 AFC title games.
I think the time period that we're in now with like social media and everything like that, I don't think it's going to be too uncommon to see players like that have a big impact, not for a short amount of time, but for, a decent amount of time, be able to make the Pro Football Hall of Fame, just because, it's there, it's in your face, it's everywhere, right? He's all over TVs.
I think
it's not even, for me, it's not
right,
not just
you're
that.
Just talking about the accolades.
Like
in
the
the play,
accolades, that's a first ballot Hall of Fame resume already.
I think that folks would want to see a little bit more longevity. I hear what you're saying. Like the idea of first ballot, I think people would kind of, because the nature of when you get in matters for folks, right? Even though I'm not sure it should, but like we use this as some level of like stratosphere, like stratifying this, where it's like first ballot versus like a second ballot versus like,
Because I was hot last year that DeMarcus Ware wasn't a first ballot Hall of Famer. His resume screamed first ballot.
And then there you go. Right. So like I can see how that might happen. But I understand, right? Like you absolutely 2-time All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowl, 2-time MVP. Like you have all of these things that you can look at, you could point to. I think you need a couple more years. Kind of sidetracked here because I am on his Pro Football Reference, and one, always remember his middle name is Levon because that's fun. Secondly, I love that Pro Football Reference and all the different reference pages, the stat head pages, put these nicknames in here. Like these people actually are called by any of these nonsense. Like, have you ever heard Patrick Mahomes be called the Grim Reaper?
No.
That is the first nickname they put in here. How about Showtime? Have you ever heard him called Showtime?
I think I have heard Showtime before.
Okay. Hadn't heard that one. Magic Man? Had you ever heard Magic Man?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever heard The Musician?
No.
Have you ever heard him call? Wait, what was that, Larry?
I've heard Kermit. That's about it.
All right. Okay.
All right.
Have you ever heard anybody call him Fat Trick?
No.
On there as well. Have you ever heard them call him the Gunslinger?
I don't think so.
And then, of course, my homeboy, which I have heard before. Just have never laughed at. Not once. But I'm just go to your favorite players, basketball, football, hockey. Go to their respective like hockey reference, basketball reference, football reference pages and just go look at the nicknames that are put next to the name and see if any of those are something you've heard of before. Because I'm just always amazed by the different things that they actually document as if somebody actually called them that. Apparently, Tony Romo calls him Magic Man. So since when we've been taking cues from Tony Romo?
From the 682, Patrick Mahomes will probably get in before Darren Woodson too. All right.
They were trying to hurt you. That's what they were trying to do. They were trying to hurt you.
You're not hurting me. By the way, before we get out of here real quick, got a few minutes before we go. Wanted to touch on this because I know Red saw this.
What I see?
We love our good media news. And Andrew Marchand of the New York Post reporting that ESPN's Mina Kimes is set for a huge payday as other NFL TV stars, including Peter Schrager and Marcus Spears, are free agents coming up here in short order.
Show them the money. Especially when we're talking about Marcus Spears. We talking about Mina Kimes.
Marcus Spears so damn good on TV.
They're both so good. Like, both of them actually do this thing. I was talking about it with Mina Kimes in particular, but both of them do this thing where they make some of the complex things in football really accessible. In the ways that I'll say Inside the NBA is the best basketball programming, and not because like the basketball. NFL Live rather on ESPN is the best NFL programming that we have out there. Like, I feel like it's the quintessential football show, and they really do a great job between Mina Kimes, Marcus Spears, Ryan Clark, and yes, even Dan Orlovsky. They do a great job of breaking down football and having like pretty good conversations around it. I think maybe at least once a month you'll find during the football season that there will be like a 6 to 8 minute segment that they do that is absolutely fascinating. And so, yeah, pay them their money. ESPN or whoever needs to. Just make sure they get paid.
Speaking of paid, real quick, could a favorite of the Dallas Mavericks be returning? Now, I don't know if this technically can happen.
Desagana Job?
No.
Okay.
The Rockets have announced that they have waived Boban Marjanovic. Now, I don't know if the rules prohibit him from actually being signed again because he was cut by the team he was traded to. I'd have to check on that. But if the rules allow him to come back to Dallas, why not bring back Boban? They could use some size.
Boban, as much as he's an incredible human being, I loved him in John Wick, all of those things, so on and so forth.
Oh, man.
You know damn well Boban is more of a mascot than a basketball player at this point.
What if they did bring him back, though? What if that was their buyout signing?
Who would they cut? Is that McKinley?
They got a roster spot open.
Oh, okay, then do it. Fine. Why not? Who cares? Tell Bobby what I said about Dan Orlovsky. Tell him to come find me, too.
Oh, okay.
I'll fight Bobby if I need to. Actually, I shouldn't. He's a scary man, if you've heard the stories. Anyways, we don't have time for that.
For Larry D. Flores, my partner, Reginald Atatula, my name is Kevin Gray. It's been the Get Right with Reggie KG on 105 through the Fan. Y'all be good.
Text away your thoughts to the guys right now on the truckwreck.com fan text line at 877-881-1053. This is DFW Sports Station 105.3 The Fan.